Han Sen punched the crystal wall behind him hard. However, it only left a slight crack on the crystal wall. Seeing this, Xiao Long Xia said. Xiao Long immediately summoned a beast soul weapon. Let me dig. I have the divine blood of the second protectorate seven-headed serpent. Because the space was too cramped, Ji Ma Ran couldn't exert much strength. He stabbed it several times with his sword, but only managed to leave a few faint white marks on the crystal wall. The effect wasn't even as good as Han Jie's previous punch. Seeing this, Han Sen said to Ji Yanran, let me do it. He thought to himself, my great yin-yang magnetic force Xianian has reached a small accomplishment level. Using the yin energy technique, I can unleash powerful force within a short distance. It's not difficult. It's just right for such a small space. Next moment, Han Sen's arm trembled slightly. Punching the crystal wall fiercely, one punch after another. The crystal wall boomed loudly. Looking at Han Sen, sweating profusely, Ji Yanran spoke with some heartache. Han Jie, don't push yourself. Let's think of other ways. Just as Ji Yanran finished speaking, a sound of shattering crystals rang out. Pieces of crystals fell from the crystal wall. Seeing this scene, Han Sen was instantly invigorated. He quickly said to Ji Yanran, Yanran, you move back a little. Han Sen then unleashed hundreds of punches in succession. The cracks in the crystal wall gradually widened. Finally, there was a loud boom. The crystal wall was actually smashed by his fist, a hole appearing. When Ji Yanran saw Han Sen's fist, she was immediately heartbroken. She hurriedly reached out and grasped Han Sen's large hand. Han Sen, your hands are bleeding so much, does it hurt? Han Sen smiled slightly and said, it's alright. It's just a superficial wound, it didn't injure the bone. Let's go out and talk. The two climbed out of the hole and arrived inside a large hall. Hanging from the ceiling of the hall, blood-red crystals floated, like countless bloody stars in the sky. They also shimmered with a red light. Han Sen was familiar with these crystals. They were the simulated crystal cores of the crystal race. A loud boom echoed. Countless simulated crystal cores flashed with a dazzling red light, transforming into countless blood crystal people descending from the sky. Han Sen immediately charged towards the group of blood crystal people. These blood crystal people mimicked Han Sen's physical data. However, while physical data can be simulated, but it's something that simulated crystals can't simulate. For example, the cultivation techniques, or the application and understanding of martial arts. Watching Han Sen casually wipe out a blood crystal person, Ji Yanran thought in surprise. A blood crystal person with the same power. I was completely helpless before Hansen. The only explanation is, Hansen's efficiency in using his own strength is just too high. Without a prominent background, he's still able to achieve this level. He's one of a kind. Ji Yanran's beautiful eyes sparkled. A surge of pride welled up in her heart. Shattered crimson crystals rained down on the ground. In a short time, Han Sen had obliterated all the blood crystal people. Ji Yanran's face flushed with excitement. She directly hugged Han Jie. Han Sen thought Ji Yanran was worried about him. He patted Ji Yanran's head and laughed. A few blood crystal people. They can't hurt your husband. Don't worry, Ji Yanran. Hearing this, she hugged Han Sen tightly, saying nothing and refusing to let go. She simply buried her head against Han Sen's chest. Seeing Ji Yanran's moving and charming appearance, Han Sen also felt a surge of heat in his heart. Ahem. This isn't the time or place for that. Even if you really want to, you have to find a safe place. I don't want to. After hearing Han Sen's words, Ji Yanran's pretty face instantly flushed red. She punched Han Sen hard. Just as the two were flirting, a voice, untimely and out of place, sounded nearby. Still in the mood to flirt in a place like this, they looked towards the source of the voice. Han Sen and Ji Yanran's faces instantly changed. They saw Li Mingtang slowly walking into the hall from outside. He smiled faintly at Han Sen. Han Sen, you really surprised me, to be able to utilize your own strength to that extent. Among those your age, I've only seen 3. Han Sen casually glanced behind Li Mingtang. But Wang Ho was nowhere to be seen, and Li Mingtang had many wounds on his body. It didn't look good. Seeing Han Sen's silence, Li Mingtang continued on his own. This is within the Jin Wang clan's ruins, so from now on, you will follow my orders. Han Sen replied coldly upon hearing this. Why? Li Mingtang smiled faintly. He. How about this? He said. Li Mingtang's skin gradually turned golden and jade-like. In an instant, his whole body shone with golden light. Seeing this scene, Ji Yanran immediately let out a cry of surprise. Super Diamond Body. You actually cultivated the Super Diamond Body. Han Sen asked doubtfully, what is the Super Diamond Body? Ji Yanran explained, in the world, there are countless supernuclear genes adapted from ancient martial arts. Their rankings vary. However, no matter the ranking, the Super Diamond Body will always be among the top 10. This is adapted from the ancient martial art, King Kong, the indestructible Super King Kong body. If one could cultivate it to its peak, even particle Xianians would find it hard to injure the body. It's just that it's too difficult to cultivate. 100 years may not be enough to achieve anything. So, those who truly dare to try this hypernuclear gene technique are few, but once successful, their physical bodies will be king among their peers. After hearing Ji Yanran's words, Li Mingtang smiled faintly. It wasn't as exaggerated as you said. I only learned the basics. If you have a quality of 20 or more, breaking through my mere basic super diamond body wouldn't be difficult. Actually, you don't need to be my enemy. I never intended to take your lives. Otherwise, Captain G, you wouldn't be alive today. Now, in this perilous Crystal King's relic, the more people we have, the stronger we are. We'll have a better chance of getting out alive. We should work together. Han Sen said to Li Mingtang calmly, cooperation is possible, but you should at least tell us your purpose for entering the Jingzhou royal remains. We don't want to die without knowing why. Li Mingtang took a breath. He explained, actually, it doesn't matter if I tell you. Captain G, you must know about this Jingwang clan relic. It was discovered decades ago. After Ji Yanran nodded, Li Mingtang continued. It was initially discovered by an interstellar exploration vessel. They sent people into the ruins to explore. None of them ever came out. Later, the Alliance sent a warship to excavate the ruins. Those who went in also never returned. My father, he was the captain of the expedition ship that first discovered this ruin. He entered the ruin and never came out. I just want to find his remains. Hearing this, Han Sen let out a cold laugh. Professor Li, you're treating us like children. You and Wang Ho clearly have ulterior motives. Don't tell me Wang Ho also wants to find his father's remains. Li Mingtang smiled faintly, his expression unchanged. That's right, we have another purpose for entering the ruins. That's the Alliance battleship from back then. One of the items left behind at the Changdai ruins. Han Sen immediately pressed, asking what it was. Li Mingtang replied, a Jingzhou key. Legend says that with that key, one could artificially activate the Jingzhou core control. Those crystal cores are used by humans, enough to advance human technological evolution by 30 years. Han Sen said coldly upon hearing this, I'm afraid your search for the key to the crystal race isn't for the purpose of improving human technology. Li Mingtang said calmly, I've already told you everything you wanted to know. Whether you want to cooperate is your decision. Hearing this, Han Sen and Ji Yanran exchanged a glance. What do you need us to do? Li Mingtang spoke directly, there's an area ahead. Neither Wang Ho nor I could get through. We were even separated. I didn't expect to meet you. I have an idea. If the three of us work together, we can get through that area, and directly reach the center of the Crystal King clan's ruins. Once you get there, the crystal cores in the core storage belong to you. That's what the Alliance wants too. But what's on that captain belongs to me. Not long after, Li Mingtang brought Han Sen and Ji Yanran to the edge of an abyss. On the other side of that abyss lies a castle. Connected to that castle across the way is a crystal bridge, more than a foot wide. From afar, it looks like a thin thread connecting both sides of the abyss. Li Mingtang addressed the two, saying, we cross this crystal bridge. Then we can reach the core of the Crystal King's relic. We can't afford any mistakes. Otherwise, we'll all be in mortal danger. Han Sen asked Li Mingtang doubtfully, can't we just fly over? Li Mingtang pointed upwards without speaking. When Han Sen and Ji Yanran looked up, they were immediately shocked by what they saw. Even Lian Shua's voice became much quieter. There's actually a mother nest core here. How could we possibly get past this section of the road? Li Mingtang explained upon hearing this. The mother nest's crystals are extremely sensitive to air currents. If there's any air movement nearby, the tiny crystals inside will erupt like freezing rain. They'll burst forth. But those tiny crystals are 1,000 times more terrifying than freezing rain. Those tiny crystals are covered in sharp spines. Once it sticks to you, the thorns pierce your skin and begin to suck your blood. Even my super strong body can't withstand it. Hearing this, Han Sen was startled. Is it that terrifying? Li Mingtang smiled and replied, you'll want to use a flying beast soul to get over it from above. It'll definitely alert the mother nest crystal. The only way is to slowly walk across the crystal bridge. Try to minimize air movement. That's the only chance we have of not alarming the nest. Just follow my instructions. The three of us kept a certain distance. We proceeded as slowly as possible. The three of them moved towards the opposite side at an extremely slow pace. They had almost crossed. However, the brood mother's core above remained undisturbed. Li Mingtang secretly frowned. He thought to himself, strange. Why haven't these mother crystals been triggered? The last time Li Mingtang and Wang Ho were together, they hadn't gone far before triggering a mother crystal. As a result, they had to flee for their lives. That's why Li Mingtang suffered so many injuries. The three of them crossed the crystal bridge without incident. The mother crystal core remained completely unresponsive throughout. Li Mingtang walked directly towards the palace. Seeing this, Han Sen whispered to Ji Yanran, stay vigilant at all times. If you encounter danger, remember to hide behind me. A few minutes later, the three of them entered the enormous palace. The entire palace was in disarray. with many corpses scattered about. Li Mingtang warned the other two, those are dead people. I don't know how they died. Don't touch them. Li Mingtang was just speaking. Suddenly, a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. It's you. Only then did Han Sen notice a figure in the corner. That figure was none other than Wang Ho, who had disappeared for so long. Li Mingtang asked Wang Ho, when did you arrive? Did you find anything? Wang Ho smiled and said, after we separated, I took a short walk and came here. I've already found the item. Upon seeing the blood-red crystal in Wang Ho's hand, color of ecstasy, a look of ecstatic joy instantly appeared in Li Mingtang's eyes. Good, good, good. Quickly give him to me. Wang Ho nodded and walked towards Li Mingtang. When he was only a few steps away from Li Mingtang, he immediately punched towards Li Mingtang's chest. Li Mingtang was also prepared. The moment Wang Ho made his move, a golden light instantly flashed across Li Mingtang's body. Wang Ho's fist slammed into his chest, producing a sound like clashing metal. Li Mingtang sneered at Wang Ho, Wang Ho, you can't hurt my super strong body. Wang Ho said indifferently, oh really? He said this while throwing a grenade towards the distance. The next moment, the grenade exploded at the palace gate. Seeing this, Han Sen's face changed drastically. Countless small green crystals appeared, like a green sandstorm, sweeping towards them. Wang Ho looked at the three of them coldly and said, die. Countless small green crystals chased after Han Sen, Ji Yanran, and Li Mingtang. At this moment, Ji Yanran suddenly discovered that not a single small crystal nucleus was flying towards Wang Ho. These small crystal nuclei completely ignored Wang Ho. Li Mingtang had only run a few steps when he was stuck all over with the countless green small crystal nuclei. Soon, those small crystal nuclei stuck to him. It changed from green to red. Clearly, a large amount of blood was drawn from Li Mingtang's body. He extracted a large amount of blood. Li Mingtang struggled desperately, but it was useless. He could only watch as more and more small crystalline nuclei stuck to him. Back to Han Sen. After those small crystal cores swirled over, they surprisingly flew past them, without even touching their bodies. This instantly filled the two with surprise and joy. Seeing this scene, Wang Ho, though somewhat surprised, wasn't a researcher. He couldn't understand why. He drew his beast soul longsword, and walked directly towards Han Sen. Very well, then I'll personally send you on your way. Han Sen stared at the 9 lives blood cat pendant, which reacted. He thought to himself, what exactly is that blood-red crystal in Wang Ho's hand? What is it? Why does the 9 lives blood cat pendant react to it? Han Sen was lost in thought when the Marquis lunged with his sword. Seeing this, Han Sen immediately summoned the Fairy Queen's beast soul. He activated the ancient evil curse and overcharged simultaneously. He unleashed his body's full power. Good job, Han Jie, the Marquis sneered. I didn't kill you before, because I didn't want to let Li Mingtang see my true strength. You still think with your little strength, you can really contend with me? Wang Ho's sword was unbelievably fast. In the blink of an eye, it had already pierced Han Jie's throat. Han Sen's heart pounded. He stared intently at Wang Ho. Instead of retreating, he advanced. Like a ghost, he closed in on Wang Ho. He thought to himself, Wang Ho, his physical condition is already deteriorating. And he's wielding the Shinshua sword, a second-tier divine weapon. It seems that only close-quarters combat offers any chance of success. Wang Ho saw that Han Sen didn't run away, but instead moved closer to him. He immediately shifted his longsword from a thrust to a slash. The change was so fast there was no interval. Han Sen was startled. When Ji Yanran saw Wang Ho's swordsmanship, she immediately warned Han Sen. That's the gear swordsmanship. Don't let him continue. Wang Ho sneered, indeed, worthy of being from the Ji family. You actually recognize my gear swordsmanship, but you've realized it too late. Wang Ho's mind moved. Another beast soul sword appeared in his left hand. He held a sword in each hand. He continuously attacked Han Sen relentlessly, sword after sword, giving him no chance to breathe. In just a moment, Han Sen has already been hit by several swords. Blood continues to flow out. Han Sen gritted his teeth. He thought to himself, since I became an evolutor, I haven't encountered such a strong opponent. His physical capabilities exceed 100, plus that superb gear-based swordsmanship. I haven't felt this invigorated in ages. Ji Yanran summoned her beast soul and wanted to join the fray, but she heard Han Sen roar, don't come. I can handle it. Wang Ho said coldly, don't rush. You're all going to die. At this moment, the movement techniques Han Sen had been researching for so long, finally came in handy. With his exquisite tactical deployment, Han Sen managed to hold Wang Ho back, though he was still powerless to fight back. But the king's sword never managed to deliver a fatal blow. Han Sen's gaze was as still as a well. He watched the king's every move. After a long time, Han Sen finally seized his chance. He lured the king into his pre-PL trap. Han Sen unleashed a powerful punch. The king was forced to switch to defense. His world-renowned gear swordsmanship was abruptly interrupted. Seeing this, the king was shocked. Enraged, he took 2 quick steps back. Then, he clenched the blood-red crystal in his hand and roared, "I'll make sure you die without a burial." Xialongxia said, "I'll make you die without a burial." Yu Ho clenched the blood-red crystal. He said to Han Sen viciously. While speaking, Wang Ho pressed the blood-red crystal against his forehead. The next moment, the blood-red crystal bloomed with crimson light, as if drawn by the crimson light. The countless small green crystals in the sky, as if obeying a king's command, they turned into a green torrent, rushing towards Han Sen. Seeing this, Han Sen was instantly terrified. He hadn't expected. Wang Ho can actually use the blood-red crystals to control those crystal cores. Just as the green crystal cores were about to attack Han Jia, suddenly, a rather quiet sound came from Han Sen's pocket. The moment the sound rang out, the countless green crystalline nuclei in the air instantly stopped moving. It only lasted a moment. Then, those green crystalline nuclei moved again, but they were no longer swirling towards Han Sen. Countless green crystalline nuclei swirled back. They rolled towards the noble holding the blood-red crystal. Under Han's questioning gaze, countless small green crystals filled the sky, instantly arriving before the Marquis. The Marquis' face turned pale. He desperately pushed the blood crystal, but it was completely useless. Those small green crystals were completely unaffected by him and his blood crystals. They instantly covered his body completely. Wang Ho let out a shrill scream. He fell to the ground and rolled around desperately, but after only 2 rolls, he stopped moving. His whole body instantly went limp. He was clearly dead beyond any doubt. The small green crystal core, after absorbing it, immediately flew into the sky. Then it returned to the hive. Ji Yanran reluctantly turned her head away. At this time, Han Sen spoke with a questioning tone. "Did you hear any sound just now?" "It sounded like insects," Han Sen said, fumbling in his pocket. Under Ji Yanran's questioning gaze, Han Sen pulled out a rhinoceros beetle from his pocket. He continued to Ji Yanran, "I just heard him make a sound like AI chi." Then, those green little crystal cores turned to attack the Marquis. Ji Yanran exclaimed in surprise, "You mean, those green little crystal cores didn't attack us because of him? What on earth is this thing?" Han Sen nodded upon hearing this. However, he couldn't explain the reason at all. After picking up the rhinoceros beetle, Han Sen bent down and found a card on the Marquis' body. As expected, this nobleman also has an identity card with the 9 lives blood cat pattern. Han Sen thought to himself, "It seems the blood-colored crystal really is related to the 9 lives blood cat," he thought. Han Sen took the blood-red crystal from the corpse's hand. He took it. The next moment, the 9 lives blood cat pendant reacted even more violently. After thinking for a while, Han Sen took the 9 lives blood cat pendant and placed it together with the blood-colored crystal. However, the 9 lives blood cat pendant didn't show any particular change. He hesitated slightly. Han Sen, imitating Wang Ho, pressed the blood-colored crystal against his forehead. The blood-red crystal suddenly reacted. In a flash, it melted. Then, it permeated into Han Sen's brain. After the blood-red crystal was absorbed, the 9 lives blood cat no longer felt hot. It became an ordinary crystal pendant again. Ji Yanran worriedly looked at Han Sen's forehead. She said, "Are you alright?" Han Sen shook his head and said, "I'm fine. This thing seems similar to a brain crystal. But how did Wang Ho use it to control those gene cores?" Ji Yanran glanced at Li Mingtang and Wang Ho's bodies. She said with some regret, "Now, both of them are dead. Probably no one will know the truth." While Ji Yanran was speaking, Han Sen searched again Li Mingtang's body. To Han Sen's surprise, Li Mingtang didn't have the 9 lives blood cat card on him. Han Sen stood up and said to Ji Yanran, "Let's go. The things in the crystal core warehouse belong to the Alliance now, even if we take them back. Let's talk about it later." Saying this, Han Sen directly took Ji Yanran and headed back the way they came. When Han Sen and Ji Yanran returned to the palace, the golden magic cube guard suddenly charged out, immediately startling Han Sen and Ji Yanran. However, this time the Rubik's Cube Guardian didn't attack them. Instead, it quietly hovered in the air. Seeing this, Han Sen laughed at Ji Yanran. It seems this rhinoceros beetle can help us safely leave the king's clan ruins." He thought to himself, "This good stuff must not be SCN'd by the Eternal Sai. The SCNers on the Eternal Side shouldn't detect it. It would be a shame to hand it over to the League." In the end, Han Sen and Ji Yanran successfully returned to the Eternal Sai, but the unicorn beetle actually escaped the SCNers. Han Sen read a book. He called to the rhinoceros beetle, "Little horn, come here." The rhinoceros beetle let out an AI sound, but it didn't move at all. It clearly didn't understand what Han Sen meant. Just as Han Sen was about to get out of bed to catch it, rhinoceros beetle, it was as if it was caught by something, slowly floating up. Then it drifted before Han Sen. Seeing this, Han Sen let out a cry of surprise. As Han Sen's spirit fluctuated, the rhinoceros beetle instantly lost its support. It fell from the air. Han Sen thought incredulously, what just happened? Could it be that I have the ability to control objects from a distance? Thinking this, Han Sen focused his mind again on the rhinoceros beetle. Soon, the rhinoceros beetle wobbled and floated up again. It landed in Han Sen's hand. He confirmed that he truly had the ability of telekinesis. Han Sen was overjoyed. He immediately tried concentrating his mind on some cups and other small objects. Sure enough, he could move small objects with his mind within a range of about 2 meters. I can make a cup levitate. Beyond that, it becomes a bit difficult. Han Sen thought to himself, the blood crystal seems to have given my brain a quantum leap in development. I can actually use telekinesis. Unfortunately, this telekinesis is too weak. It's basically useless. Han Sen was initially very excited, but after discovering that this ability is essentially not very useful, he instantly lost interest in this ability. A few minutes later, in the captain's office of the Eternal Harvest Goddess, looking at Qi Yanran, whose face looked a little unpleasant, Han Sen smiled slightly. Who made our captain so unhappy? Qi Yanran replied, due to a major blunder in the excavation of the Jingzhou ruins, the Eternal Sai was ordered to return. Han Sen's smile immediately disappeared upon hearing this. He quickly asked Qi Yanran, will you be punished? Qi Yanran replied, thankfully, I had the 2 high-grade crystal cores you brought back. My superiors consider this my atonement. Hearing this, Han Sen breathed a sigh of relief and said, that's good. By the way, Yanran, can you still not access the Skynet? I haven't logged into the Gladiator virtual community for a long time. Qi Yanran replied, although you can't access the Tianwang network, you can still access the military's internal virtual training camp. Han Jia exclaimed excitedly, that's great. I've recently mastered new fighting techniques. Want to test it in a real battle? Han Sen said while using the full lizard to log into the army's internal virtual training camp. He still used the small soldier on the warship account. After setting up the I account, Han Sen directly entered the virtual training camp. He started matchmaking. He quickly matched with a captain-level opponent. Number 10, Xiang Fei. On the other side, in the teleportation battle on Luo Jia Star, Qin first looked at his opponent's mouth. He couldn't help but be surprised. The small soldier on the warship this mouth, because after the last 7 kills video, he became quite famous among the army's soldiers. Qin Xian had naturally heard this name, but what she didn't know was, this man is actually Han Sen, the one who stabbed her in the butt before. After many days, Qin Xian finally reappeared. Because the virtual training camp has a face-blurring function, neither of them recognized each other. Not long after the battle began, Qin Xian got angry, because Han Sen across from her only dodged clumsily, never attacking at all. She used all her strength, but couldn't touch Han Sen at all. Moreover, before the match began, Qin Xian had already checked her opponent's match data. The other party is most likely just a newbie. Qin Xian thought angrily in her heart, with my barely over 100 physical fitness, I'm considered a top-tier figure among evolvers. To actually be led around by the nose by a newbie. And I was even tricked step by step into a dead end. Damn it, I could have ended the fight with just a reach. Why didn't you fight back? Are you insulting me? You'll regret this. Qin Xian gritted his teeth in hatred. The next moment, she directly used the new evolved martial art she learned. After her ascension to evolved being, Qin Xian's hands moved like lightning, delivering a series of strikes. Incredibly fast. Han Sen instantly felt the pressure increase significantly. He was hit by Qin Xuanqi's attack before he knew it. He instantly lost 64% of his health. Han Sen was shocked and thought to himself, what an amazing hand knife. It didn't even hit a vital point. Yet it caused me to lose so much health. He felt a slight thrill of excitement at his opponent's strength, because this is perfect for him to test the results of the Dongxian scripture. At first, he was a little clumsy. Under the opponent's rapid attack, Han Sen was repeatedly in dangerous situations. Several times he almost fell victim to Qin Xian's attack. But as Han Sen gradually applied his understanding of the Dongxian Sutra to battle, the advantage Qin Xian had over him lessened. In the end, Qin Xian's gaze towards Han Sen shifted from anger to admiration. She silently thought to herself, he's admirable. His movements are almost comparable to the heaven-soaring technique, but they seem slightly different. Could this person be a high-ranking military official? Just as Han Sen was feeling excited, he saw Qin Xian across from him suddenly stop. Qin Xian suddenly saluted. Respectfully, may I ask which superior officer you are? Han Sen replied speechlessly, I'm not any superior officer. I'm just an ordinary soldier. Qin Xian didn't quite believe what Han Sen said, but she didn't dwell on it. She smiled at Han Sen and said, Comrade, I don't know what your martial art is called. Is it possible to teach it to others? Han Sen was startled and asked, you want to learn? Teaching is naturally possible, but this isn't martial art from the army. It's not free. While speaking, Han Sen thought to himself, if this Xiang Fei is willing to pay the price, I wouldn't mind giving him a little something. I'll use him as a test subject. It's a good opportunity to test my results. As long as you don't teach me everything, you pose no threat to me. I can afford anything as long as I can manage the cost. Seeing that the other party genuinely wants to learn, Han Sen thought for a moment and replied, let's do this. Let's exchange martial arts for martial arts. I'll teach you one lesson. Give me the materials on the hand knife technique you just used. We'll discuss the future lessons later. Later lessons will be discussed separately. Qin Xian immediately agreed upon hearing this. Half an hour later, Qin Xian thought to himself, I traded my lightning blade for this lesson. I've gotten an incredible bargain. That person must be a master. Such a simple technique. Yet it can branch out into so many subtle variations. Qin Xian would never have imagined. The master he believed in was actually Han Sen, the one who had stabbed her in the butt. Han Sen checked the time. He said to Qin Xian, half an hour's up. That's all for today's lesson. Qin Xian nodded in response. May I ask how you'd like to be addressed, comrade? Han Sen casually replied, just call me private. Qin Xian continued, then I'll call you coach. Han Sen replied indifferently, that's fine. After saying that, he exited the match. Quickly, a friend request appeared before Han Sen. Several hours later, in the galley of the Eternal Sai, Lu Mingliang, the vice squad leader, spoke to Han Sen. Little Han, you attained the rank of major while still at the military academy. You must be a godblood noble, right? Han Sen nodded dubiously and said, yes. Hearing Han Sen's words, Lu Mingliang continued, your chance has come. This time so many comrades sacrificed themselves on the goddess, including the electronic warfare platoon and the guard platoon. The platoon leaders of the demolition squad and other platoons have all been killed. After we return, we'll definitely promote a batch of junior officers. Although your time in the army is relatively short, you graduated from a prestigious university and are a noble of divine blood. If not you, then who should we promote? Han Sen returned to the dormitory. He immediately called Ji Yanran. A stunning figure in a black halter top instantly appeared before Han Sen. Han Jia asked Ji Yanran, I heard that they want to promote some junior officers from the existing personnel of the goddess. Ji Yanran nodded and said, I was just about to talk to you about this, but I don't want you to be the squad leader of the battle armor squad, or any other squad. I hope you can be my bodyguard. Hearing Ji Yanran's words, Han Sen was instantly overjoyed. He blurted out, a guard, isn't that the same as a bodyguard? That's good. That way we'll have more time together. Ji Yanran's face flushed at his words. She lightly snorted at Han Sen. Your mind is full of nonsense. Although I really want to make you my bodyguard directly, there are many things I don't have the choice to control. Although I've strongly recommended you, I've only managed to secure you an opportunity. Whether you can be considered for this guard position depends on you. Pinran, I don't think the chances are very high, but we can try. I've been given 2 guard positions, except one position is fixed. I have to compete with 3 other people for the other position. One of the opponents is very strong. All 4 of you will participate in the military competition. Whoever achieves the best results will get the quota. The time came to the next day. Han Sen took advantage of his free time to teleport to the shelter. Zhu Ting stood in front of Han Sen and said, Boss, why did you take so long to come? I waited so hard for you. I got the half-step cloud a long time ago, but I haven't had a chance to give it to you. After Han Sen received the half-step cloud, he spoke to Ling. I'm going hunting for some Xenos. You stay here and guard the Xenomorph sanctuary. Ling obediently nodded. Han Sen ventured deep into the ice field alone, his mind recalling Ji Yanran's words, competing with you for the guard position. There is one called the Blue Blood Tiger. You've already witnessed Li Mingtang's super diamond body. It took Li Mingtang 6 years to master it, but that one has already mastered it. The super diamond body. He is your greatest opponent. Han Sen thought to himself, Li Mingtang once said, that it takes a physique 12 times stronger to break through the super diamond body. Right now, I can only hunt some smaller, anomalous creatures as quickly as possible, and rapidly improve my physique. Otherwise, I won't even be able to break through their defenses. Han Sen had been trekking across the ice field for 2 or 3 days. Finally, a small alien creature appeared before him. Han Sen cautiously approached the purple creature, slowly moving closer, but when he was still a few meters away from the purple creature, that purple marten suddenly turned its head. Then it discovered Han Sen not far away. Upon discovering Han Sen, the marten, instead of fleeing, Xiao Long said in the anime, it charged straight towards Han Sen. In the blink of an eye, it pounced in front of Han Sen. Han Sen was startled. He was certain that this little guy was definitely a divine blood creature. The moment the sable pounced, Han Sen reacted instantly. He nimbly dodged the sable's attack. At the same time, he punched towards the sable. However, the sable's body was unusually agile. Its body moved with a strange and swift maneuver. It easily dodged Han Sen's punch. The sable seized the opportunity and struck with a paw. Han Sen couldn't dodge in time. Immediately, the sable clawed 3 bloody wounds on him. Han Sen looked at the scar on his arm. Purple blood was flowing from it. This was clearly a symptom of severe poisoning. Fortunately, after cultivating the ice muscle jade bone technique, Han Sen's resistance to toxins had become extremely strong. Using the techniques of the Dongxian scripture, Han Sen's punch hit the sable's body, sending it flying until it crashed into a glacier and stopped. Just as Han Sen was about to approach the sable, he saw that the severely injured sable, surprisingly, it flashed and quickly darted off. It sped away in one direction. At this point, how could Han Sen let it go? He immediately took off after it. Thus, a man and a sable chased each other frantically through the snowy mountains. Although Han Sen's speed wasn't as fast as the sable's, but because the sable was seriously injured, it still couldn't shake off Han Sen. Han Sen originally thought he would quickly be able to chase down and kill this sable, but he didn't expect the sable's will to survive to be so strong. He chased for 4 days and 4 nights. Only then did Han Sen catch up to the sable and kill it. The next moment, a long-lost voice suddenly rang out in Hansen's mind. Hunt successful. Obtain the Blood Fiend Sable Claws and the Blood Fiend Little Sable Beast Soul. Consuming its flesh and blood can randomly grant 10 points of divine genes. By this time, Han Sen was already exhausted. He didn't even have the energy to check the newly obtained God Blood Beast Soul. He simply sat down on the ground, then immediately lay down. While chasing the sable, Xiaolong Xiashuo animation, Han Sen didn't even dare to blink. He didn't even have time to take a sip of water. Xiaolong Xiashuo animation. Now, suddenly relaxed, Xiaolong Xiashuo animation. Han Sen instantly felt a strong sense of fatigue. Zhu animation came crashing down. I don't know how long I slept in the snow. A voice sounded in Han Sen's ear. Hey friend, this part seems to be a name or a reference. Nonsense anime, likely a show title, and needs context for accurate translation. You can't sleep here. Sleeping here is deadly. Han Sen opened his eyes and saw a tall and strong woman, carefully watching himself. When the woman saw Han Sen open his eyes, he immediately continued, Are you alright? Can you stand up? Han Sen still felt very tired. Seeing that the woman didn't try to grab the ghost claw on the ground, he continued lying on the snow. He lazily said, Don't worry about me. I won't die. Han Sen's words had just fallen. The woman directly hoisted Han Sen onto her shoulder with one hand. With her other hand, she grabbed the ghost claw weasel. She said to Han Sen calmly, Don't worry. I'll carry you back to the shelter. I won't charge you. Hearing the woman's words, Han Sen was momentarily stunned. Is there a shelter nearby? The woman replied matter-of-factly, Of course there is. You killed such a small thing. How exhausted you look. Men are really unreliable. Han Sen secretly guessed in his heart. This woman is tall and strong, like a tomboy. It's hard to tell her real age, but I guess she shouldn't be too old. His physique seems rather ordinary. He doesn't look even 30. He should be a mutant gene evolutionist. He hasn't been in the shelter for long. That's why his physique is so low. On the way, Han Sen learned the woman's name was Guan Tong, and that the shelter she was in was called the Star Will Shelter. The owner of the Star Will Shelter was a level 100 plus evolver named Li Xingluan. When Guan Tong spoke of Li Xingluan, her words were full of admiration. After half a day's long journey, Han Sen finally saw the Star Will Shelter Guan Tong had mentioned, but the scene before them gave both of them a fright. Around the Star Will Shelter, the whole mountain is filled with alien creatures. Even the sky is covered by swarms of them. Seeing this, Han Sen cried out in alarm, Damn it, the shelter is under attack. On the front lines at the shelter's gate, a man in armor wields a long sword, sweeping and slashing. One man battles 4 bloodline creatures. Fighting 4 at once, he's not losing ground at all. Even Han Sen is somewhat surprised. Han Sen understands. It's because of this man that the shelter has been able to hold out until now. It still hadn't been breached. Han Sen looked towards the rear of the alien creature. He saw a girl holding a silver scepter, standing atop a gigantic alien creature that resembled a dragon and a serpent. She looked coldly at everything before her. Beside that girl, swarms of various strange creatures followed the girl's command, orderly advancing toward the shelter, launching wave after wave of fearless and brutal attacks. Seeing the girl's appearance clearly, Han Sen instantly cried out, No, in his heart. It's actually a royal alien spirit. Seeing the shelter in danger, Guan Tong immediately threw Han Sen and the ghost claw ferret to the ground. Then he rushed towards the shelter. Seeing this, Han Sen immediately grabbed his arm. What are you doing? Guan Tong said in a deep voice. The shelter must not fall. There are no other human teleportation points nearby. If we can't hold it, we're all finished. I have to go help defend the city. With that, Guan Tong charged directly towards the shelter. Han Sen shouted after Guan Tong's departing back. You're going to die if you go now. Guan Tong ignored Han Sen's dissuasion. He resolutely charged towards the shelter. He rushed forward. Han Sen thought to himself, that royal alien spirit controls at least 7 godblood creatures. Direct confrontation is simply impossible. The only way to lift the danger to the sanctuary now is to kill that royal alien spirit. Otherwise, the alien creatures will keep pouring in. The base shelter will inevitably fail. At the first shelter, It's almost impossible to witness such a brutal battle. It's also unimaginable, the terrifying scene of the Xenos attacking the base shelter. It's hard for those who haven't experienced it to feel the impact. Han Sen is only distressed that he doesn't have a shelter's blood bow and arrow. Otherwise, he wouldn't need to take such a risk. He would have had a chance to shoot that royal alien spirit. Now, let alone a bow and arrow, he doesn't even have a decent weapon. Thinking of weapons, Han Sen quickly looked into his own soul sea, at the newly acquired Ghost Claw Weasel Soul Beast. When Han Sen saw the Ghost Claw Weasel Soul Beast, a look of joy immediately appeared on his face. For the Ghost Claw Weasel Soul Beast was actually a weapon-type soul beast. Han Sen had a sudden thought. The weapon formed from the soul of the Blood Ghost Claw Sable appeared, instantly in his hand. This weapon-like soul somewhat resembled Wolverine's adamantium claws. As Han Sen examined the soul, the situation for humanity is becoming increasingly dangerous. The story shows humans being overwhelmed by alien creatures. Even the shelter's walls finally couldn't hold. The alien creatures smashed a huge hole in them. A large number of alien creatures poured through the breach. The humans still holding the line suddenly revealed a look of despair. Without the help of the base, they found it even harder to resist the alien creature's attack. A moment of crisis. Li Xingluan, sword in hand, charged into the swarm of alien creatures. Sword. He directly killed the first wave of alien creatures that charged forward. At the same time, he shouted to everyone, retreat. Everyone immediately teleported away from the shelter. While Li Xingluan was speaking, a purple beam of light quickly rushed towards the rear of the alien creature group. Immediately, it caused unrest and roars from the alien creatures behind. Someone suddenly noticed the alien creature's unusual movements. When that person looked towards the direction of the commotion, he immediately exclaimed, everyone, look. Someone over there is charging straight towards the alien spirits. Hearing this, everyone's gaze involuntarily turned towards the alien. They saw that the human figure's speed hadn't decreased at all. Wherever he passed, countless alien creatures were cut down, as if no alien creature could stop that figure's advance. Guan Tong in the crowd saw the figure clearly. He couldn't help but exclaim, it's that person. At the same time Han Sen charged towards the royal alien spirit. The young alien spirit girl swung the scepter in her hand. All blood creatures attacking the shelter turned back immediately. Seeing this, Li Xingluan immediately roared to stop them. We absolutely see Anya, let them go back. Everyone, provide full cover for that warrior. After hearing Li Xingluan's words, everyone was instantly invigorated. They all charged out after Li Xingluan, blocking the retreating god-blood creatures. Li Xingluan, wielding his long sword, withstood a charge from the unicorn. He was sent flying several meters, man and sword together, but his eyes still held firm determination. He shouted towards Han Sen's direction, warrior ahead. No matter who you are, you must kill that alien for me. On the other side, Han Sen's figure moved swiftly. Without a single alien creature in sight, nothing could stop Han Shan's advance. Amidst everyone's incredulous gaze, Han charged towards the enormous gelatinous snake. The battlefield unfolded like a chessboard. In Han Shan's eyes, a scene presented by Xiaoxia's animation. Han charged towards the alien girl. Han Sen was among the crazed alien creatures, like a butterfly dancing gracefully. Despite the raging waves, his elegance and composure were unaffected. Just as Han Sen charged towards the giant mosquito snake, before it, a cold smile suddenly appeared on the strange girl's lips. Then, the rocks beneath Han Sen's feet suddenly cracked. A pair of stone hands emerged from the ground. The stone hands instantly grabbed at Han Sen, who was very close. Just as Han Sen jumped to dodge, the giant canine serpent, several creatures simultaneously lunged at Han Sen. Humans witnessing this scene from afar felt a sudden chill in their hearts. It's over, all over. That aberrant spirit is too insidious. It actually hit another god-blood gargoyle underground. Guan Tong suddenly exclaimed excitedly, look. He dodged it. Han Sen's body miraculously dodged in mid-air for a second. He avoided the giant mouth's engulfment. He arrived above the spirit girl. Then he landed steadily in front of the spirit girl. Seeing Han Sen jump in front of her, the spirit girl's beautiful eyes, a cold light flashed. With a thought, silver light filled her whole body. The strange spirit girl instantly transformed into a female warrior in silver armor. Her staff also transformed into a slender silver sword. The otherworldly girl's eyes were cold as she lunged toward Han Sen. Her sword flashed out, so fast that it was impossible for anyone to react. At the same time, the divine blood gargoyle had already pounced behind Han Sen. Han Sen is surrounded on all sides. In everyone's eyes, Han Jia has fallen into a desperate situation. But in Han Sen's eyes, this is his opportunity. Han Sen thought for a moment, and the fairy queen's beast soul instantly possessed him. The ancient evil curse and the overload were running wildly at the same time. As the strange spirit girl's slender sword pierced towards him, Han Sen didn't retreat but advanced instead. He let the slender sword pierce into his body. He used this opportunity to get closer to the strange spirit girl. Under the strange spirit girl's shocked gaze, Han Sen suddenly swung his right hand. 3 purple lights flashed past, instantly slicing the alien girl into 4 pieces. At this moment, everyone's gaze focused on that magnificent figure. The red armor shimmered brightly. The dazzling light was almost unbearable to look at. Seeing this, Li Xingluan couldn't help but praise, using his body as bait, to strike and shatter that imperial spirit. Brave and resourceful, what a talent! After Han Sen killed the royal alien spirit, the alien army, having lost its master, immediately fell into chaos. The situation completely reversed. The alien legion scattered and fled. All the humans guarding the shelter. Taking advantage of this chaos, I chased after them. I tried to eliminate all the alien creatures that had fallen behind. All of them. After Han Sen killed that royal alien spirit, ignoring the wound in his chest, he charged directly towards the nearest godblood gargoyle. He attacked. The bloodstone gargoyle was entangled by Han Sen. It could only fight Han Sen desperately. A stone-like claw and the ghost claw blade clashed repeatedly. The ghost claw blade could only leave shallow scratches on it. However, the ghost claw blade's potent poison seeped through those scratches, entering the gargoyle's body. Even the ice skin jade bone technique almost couldn't withstand the potent poison. This gargoyle clearly couldn't withstand it either. Watching the gargoyle's movements become slower and slower, just as Han Sen showed a look of joy, the gargoyle suddenly let out an angry roar. Han Sen's expression changed upon seeing this. Under Han Sen's surprised gaze, the gargoyle's skin suddenly contracted, turning into a dark, hard color. It looked much harder than before. Han Sen knew at a glance. This gargoyle went berserk. But even after going berserk, the gargoyle didn't linger. It turned and fled madly in one direction. This was a rare opportunity to kill a divine blood creature. Han Sen couldn't let it escape. He immediately pursued the gargoyle with all his might. On the other side, Li Xingluan, after seeing that the shelter was safe, immediately summoned his spirit beast mount, and pursued Han Sen. He thought to himself, such a person, I must meet them no matter what, even if it's just to learn their name. Back to Hansen. He chased the gargoyle for over 300 li across the vast ice field. Finally, the gargoyle, due to severe poisoning, could no longer run. Han Sen stepped forward and slashed hundreds of times with his blade. Finally, he severed the gargoyle's head. Han Sen wiped the sweat from his brow and muttered, "This almost killed me. Its skin was incredibly hard. If it hadn't been weakened by the poison. Otherwise, I wouldn't know if I could even cut it down." While Han Sen was lost in thought, a voice sounded in his mind, "Successful hunt. Successfully hunted the Berserk Bloodstone Armored Demon. Obtained Berserk Stone Armored Demon soul blood and flesh. Not edible." After hearing this voice, Han Jie excitedly muttered to himself, "Stone Armor Demon. If only it were a suit of armor. With a sword and armor, I'd have no worries." As Han Sen thought, the Stone Armor Demon's soul was instantly summoned. His body, suddenly, streaks of dark, devilish-looking tattoos appeared on his body, looking extremely ferocious. Han Sen couldn't help but mutter, "Why is it another demonic tattoo beast soul? The last one I got was a blood demon eagle beast soul. I haven't even figured out what it's for yet." Looking at the bird-like gloss on his skin, Han Sen felt a sudden movement in his heart. He immediately raised the ghost claw blade. He slashed at his own arm twice. The sound of metal clashing instantly rang out. After the ghost claw blade softened, it only left 3 shallow white marks on it. Amazing! Seeing this, Han Sen was instantly overjoyed. "Ha ha ha, this is good. This is great." Han Sen then slashed several more times at various parts of his body. Several more cuts. The results are all the same. He excitedly thought to himself, "With this magic pattern beast soul, I've essentially cultivated an extremely powerful protective hypercore gene technique, and I can still continue using the beast soul armor. This beast soul is simply perfect." After retrieving all the beast souls from his body, Han Sen found a place, and happily began to eat the ghost weasel's flesh he had obtained earlier. Just as Han Sen was halfway through his meal, the sound of approaching horseshoes caught his attention. Li Xingluan approached Han Sen. He immediately dismounted and explained, "Friend, please don't misunderstand. I pursued you, but I have no ill intentions. I merely wish to make a friend." Han Jun replied indifferently, "If you wish to thank me, then it's unnecessary. Li Xing's reincarnation path if it's only to thank you, then I wouldn't have had to chase you for 3 days and nights. Coming here." Hearing this, Han Sen immediately asked in confusion, "Then what are you here for?" After hearing Li Xingluan's explanation, Han Sen spoke with some surprise, "You're going to attack the royal alien spirit stronghold." Li Xingluan nodded and said in a low voice, "You know, without shattering the soul stone, that royal alien spirit, they will also resurrect within the spirit shelter. That royal spirit shelter blocks the icy plains, the path connecting it to the outside world. If we don't take down that royal spirit shelter, humanity will only be able to hunt in this small area. It will be difficult to complete the god genes. I tried to broker an alliance between the 3 major factions to accomplish this, but The three factions have long harbored deep-seated resentment towards each other over the competition for the limited resources on this ice sheet, and have developed deep-seated grudges. Hearing this, Han Sen secretly pondered in his heart. The resources nearby have probably all been divided up by the so-called three major forces. It seems that rapidly improving my god genes in the short term is impossible. Although I just soft-killed that imperial clan Ethereal, but that's because many of the divine blood creatures of that royal family's aberrant spirit weren't around. I alone couldn't possibly have gotten that royal family's aberrant spirit soul stone. If I cooperated with them, it might have been possible. Thinking of this, Han Sen stood up and laughed. Okay, if you can really bring about the Shi family alliance and attack the imperial family's shelter, then count me in. Li Xingluan nodded happily upon hearing this. Great, I'm glad to have you join us. We will surely be able to successfully capture that royal sanctuary. The two continued their conversation. From Li Xingluan, Han Sen roughly learned the situation here. There are quite a few human sanctuaries on this ice field. There are 2 or 3 dozen of them. However, most of them were taken from the shelters of the attendant spirits and night spirits. Only 3 shelters were taken from the noble spirits. They are controlled by 3 different people, also located on the ice field. 3 major forces. The shelter where Li Xingluan is located is one of them. After a brief chat, Han Sen followed Li Xingluan back to Xingluan's shelter. Using the shelter's teleportation array, he returned to the alliance. Inside the Eternal Psy Goddess, Ji Yanran said to Han Sen seriously, the 4 of you who participated in this military competition, the person with the best results, can get another bodyguard quota. This can't be faked. I can't help you. You can only rely on yourself to add oil. I believe you can definitely win. After Han Sen and Ji Yanran separated, they went straight to the Ziyang's goddess ship's holographic instrument. Han Sen thought silently in his heart. Although I'm confident in the military competition, but to get first place, I still need to work harder. Oh, right, it seems I can log into Skynet now. I should find some strong people there to spar with. I can access the Evolvers section now. What should I name it? Han Sen directly entered Gold Coin in the ID field. Quickly, a reminder appeared before Han Sen's eyes. That ID is already taken. Han Sen changed the name to I am Gold Coin. Gold Coin 01, Gold Coin 1235. They're all showing as already in use. Han Sen frantically scratched his hair. What the F? This can't be real. How can someone else have taken these names? Where did all these gold coins come from? Heh, since you all like calling me Gold Coin so much, then don't blame me for being impolite. This time, registration was finally successful. After entering the virtual community, a shield-shaped badge appeared above Han Sen's head. That's the unique mark of a God-blood noble. Han Sen directly chose to match an opponent. He quickly found a match. He saw that the opponent also had the Divine Blood Noble's emblem above their head. Han Sen couldn't help but feel a little pleased. On the other side, Wang Dongyun looked again at Han Sen's battle record. He couldn't help but curl his lips and said, still talking about being abused by Gold Coin. A newbie like you doesn't even qualify to be abused by Gold Coin. Wang Dongyun considered himself half a fan of Gold Coin. So when he saw Han Sen, this 1D player, he immediately felt annoyed. After the battle began, Wang Dongyun didn't say a word, immediately using his most proficient explosive fist technique, preparing to slaughter this arrogant newcomer, who dared to insult Gold Coin. Wang Dongyun's punch was easily blocked by Han Sen. Han Sen swung his other fist at Wang Dongyun. In an instant, it slammed towards Wang Dongyun's face. Wang Dongyun was shocked. He quickly stepped back to dodge the attack. After dodging the punch, he prepared to severely teach this arrogant newcomer a lesson. But with this punch, Wang Dongyun was shocked to discover he no longer had a chance to strike. The opponent's punches came in a continuous stream, leaving him feeling suffocated. It felt like he had to block and retreat with every punch. He didn't even have a chance to fight back. Unknowingly, Wang Dongyun was driven to the edge of the battlefield by Han Sen. Then he was directly blown away with one punch. Wang Dongyun couldn't believe it. He was fighting a rookie. I was actually beaten without even landing a single punch. I could have knocked him out with one blow. It would have ended the match. Wang Dongyun immediately sent another challenge request. However, he received a message that the opponent was already in a match. It seems he's matched with a new opponent. Wang Dongyun, curious, chose to spectate. He immediately checked his opponent's record. It's a swordsman named I Am the Sword Saint. His record is over 1,000 wins and over 800 losses. A quite impressive record. Clearly, a veteran with rich combat experience. The battle begins quickly. I am a swordsman, the moment I make a move. Wang Dongyun knew his judgment was correct. That's definitely someone who has truly put in the hard work in swordsmanship. Seeing Han Sen actually charged towards the Sword Saint with his bare hands, Wang Dongyun's eyes widened instantly. Whoa, how dare he? The other side is using a weapon. How could he dare? Under Wang Dongyun's astonished gaze, Han Sen punched towards I Am the Sword Saint. In Wang Dongyan's opinion, I Am the Sword Saint held the advantage in weaponry. He should absolutely be able to cut Han Sen down with one strike first. However, I Am the Sword Saint's strike landed on empty air. Wang Dongyan exclaimed incredulously, "It's unscientific. This is absolutely unscientific." He really didn't understand. I'm the Sword Saint, how could I not even hit this? In just a few breaths of time, Han Sen and I, the Sword Saint, had exchanged dozens of moves. I, the Sword Saint, desperately parried Hansen's attacks. Wang Dongyan really couldn't understand. Hansen clearly had so many openings, but his opponent couldn't even land a single blow. That Sword Saint was practically his mirror image, completely crushed by Han Sen all the way. Couldn't even manage a single counterattack. Suppressed from beginning to end, finally blown away with one punch. Wang Dongyan thought to himself, could it be that my Sword Saint is too weak? Yes. That must be it. His swordsmanship is pretty good, but his head doesn't seem to be. A sham Sword Saint. Watching Han Sen's back, Wang Dongyan hurriedly shouted, "Wait. Don't go." However, Wang Dongyan was too late. Han Sen directly withdrew from the match. A new match quickly began. Wang Dongyan unwillingly watched match after match. Han Sen's matches. He soon discovered why I, the Sword Saint, lost before. It's not because he's too weak, but because this Nuesha Jinbi kill gold coins is too strong. In more than 10 consecutive matches, Nuesha Jinbi has been crushing its opponents with the same rhythm. His opponents. A sudden thought popped into Wang Dongyan's head. Could this person be God himself? The moment this thought arose, Wang Dongyan could no longer restrain himself. He immediately recorded the massacre gold coins and all the subsequent battle footage. Then he sent the footage. All of them were uploaded to the official video section, and the title was written as Suspected God Online Crushing Everything. On the other hand, Fong Mingquan now is already the top anchor of Washing Station. The program he hosts all have very good ratings. His recent program, after each broadcast, has over 100 million views across the entire league. It can already be considered one of the top programs in the league. Fong Mingquan is now enjoying great success. He's practically a big star. But Fong Mingquan has never forgotten that God who successfully turned his life around. He hasn't forgotten. As usual, Fong Mingquan used God as a keyword to search for the latest news about God online. He searched, while thinking to himself, oh, God, you should have been promoted to the second shelter for 2 or 3 years now, right? With your abilities, your genes should have been upgraded in the second shelter by now. It's about time you rose to prominence. As search results popped up, several articles instantly caught Fong Mingquan's eye. The truth behind God's downfall. It turned out to be because of her that night. The mystery of God's disappearance. For days and 3 nights of depravity, Fong Mingquan was so angry he threw the holographic device onto the table. Embryo. What a mess. Suddenly, Fong Mingquan's eyes assianied, and he was immediately drawn to the title of a video clip. The title clearly read, Suspected God Online. Crush Everything. After seeing that video footage, Fong Mingquan abruptly stood up and said, God. Even among the evolvers, he's still a top-tier god without a doubt. Such boxing techniques are unprecedented. Fong Mingquan immediately said to his assistant, Xiao Lu, arrange it. Move today's prepared topic to the next episode. Xiao Lu looked surprised. Then what are we doing this episode? Fong Mingquan replied, for this episode, we'll just do God. Fong Mingquan played that video clip on his own show, then passionately declared with a suitable phrase, God's reply. It was like dropping a bomb among the league's evolvers. A real bombshell. It sparked a lot of discussion. Fong Mingquan's program has billions of views. Even more, a huge number of people flooded into the dual platform. For years, many have tried to challenge him. Sha Jinbi sent a friend request. On the other hand, Han Sen was preparing to enter the battle platform, while thinking to himself, it looks like I won't have time to upgrade my god gene. Before the military competition, I have to quickly improve my proficiency in the Dongshan scripture. When Han Sen entered the battle platform, he was immediately startled by the screen full of friend requests. Whoa! What the hell is going on? Why are there so many friend requests? After ignoring those friend requests, Han Sen, the animation directly chose a matching battle. The moment Xialongxia and Han Sen entered the fighting arena, Xialongxia saw that the number of viewers in the room suddenly reached the maximum. Seeing so many spectators in the audience, Yuan Pei arrived at Han Sen's side. Or, reached Han Sen, the evolver, touched my head, a little dazed for a moment. He thought to himself, holy shit, how could there be so many people? Could it be that I was caught watching inappropriate videos last night, and someone filmed it and uploaded it online? That's not logical, but there aren't that many bored people here to watch me. Could it be? Wang Sun thought to himself, instinctively raising his head to look at his opponent across from him. Could my opponent be a celebrity? That's why so many people are here to watch. While Wang Sun was lost in thought, the countdown to the match ended. Wang Sun immediately rushed towards Han Sen. He excitedly thought to himself, this guy must be a celebrity. My chance has come. As long as I take this guy down, I'll become famous overnight. The moment Wang Sun attacked. Immediately, some viewers recognized Wang Sun's move. That's the Taiyin Xian Yu Dao. He truly lives up to the name Sun God, just randomly matching an opponent. He can match up with someone who practices the Taiyin Xian Yu Dao, a divine blood noble. Watching Wang Sun charge towards him rapidly, Han Sen's expression didn't change at all. He went straight towards Wang Sun, barehanded. Seeing this, Wang Sun sneered, "Heh, you dare underestimate me? I'll let you know the power of the Taiyin Xian Yu Li." Wang Sun's grip tightened. He aimed to kill Han Jie with one blow. However, Han Sen's body twisted strangely. He dodged Wang Sun's attack. Under Wang Sun's shocked gaze, Han Sen's fists rained down relentlessly. Wang Sun ultimately failed to deliver another blow. He was brutally blown to pieces by Han Sen. Han Sen ended the fight. He immediately chose a random opponent. Within the Huaxing Station. Fang Mingquan announced to everyone, God is withdrawing from the battle. Assistant Xiao Lu immediately said to the people beside him, hurry up and squeeze in. Everyone, give it your all to watch the battle. We must get in. A few seconds later, someone near Xiao Lu said with some displeasure, it's full. The room is already full. Xiao Lu heard this and laughed loudly, it's okay. I'll squeeze in. After hearing Xiao Lu's words, Fang Mingquan excitedly said, ha ha ha. Start the live stream, quickly start the live stream. Back to Hans. When Hans saw his opponent's situation, his eyes widened instantly. In Fang Mingxuan's live stream, the barrage of comments scrolled madly. Wow, what a big-breasted girl. This must be edited, right? I swear I really came to watch B-God. But she's really huge. This is a true world-class goal. Hansen just opened his opponent's profile. The countdown for the battle had already ended. He only managed to see his opponent's mouth. How I wish I didn't understand. Wudong Gai Tuahao and Wang Sun alike were both startled by the packed audience. She also didn't know about B-God's matter. So I wasn't mentally prepared at all. But none of the opponents Han Sen could be matched with were weaklings. It would have been better if she didn't understand. She only slightly changed her expression. After that, she completely calmed down and assumed a defensive posture, waiting for the opponent's attack. He doesn't seem nervous at all. Fang Mingquan recognized the World Wave Beauty's boxing style. He excitedly commented, like the wind, like a wall. This is Taishuang's iron arm fist. I believe everyone is familiar with Taishuang. He's a demigod-level council member of the Senate. This beautiful woman is actually from the prefect's family. Seeing this beautiful woman's defensive stance, Hansen couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. He'd fought over 20 matches, and hadn't encountered anyone so skilled in defense. He punched at Budong Geju. He thought to himself, there's no such thing as perfect defense in the world. Budong Geju watched Hansen's punch coming. She immediately used the defensive stance of the iron arm fist to block Hansen's attack. Their fists collided. Hansen was slightly startled. He was shocked, thinking to himself, such powerful strength. It can actually withstand my straight punch head-on, but unfortunately, I never intended to win through brute force. My purpose is to practice the techniques of the Dongxian Jing. After one punch, Hansen's fists rained down wildly on Butageduoho. Butageduoho met his blows with her own fists, but she found that his punches lacked any power. Only then did she realize that Hansen's initial punch was a feint. Hansen smiled slightly upon seeing this. He chuckled inwardly. Quick reaction. But unfortunately, as Hansen's mind raced, he unleashed another ordinary punch towards Budong. Between reality and illusion, Zhuangli, who didn't know how much better it could be, suddenly improved several times over. Not knowing how much better it could be, she adopted a defensive stance. She originally thought she had blocked Hansen's punch, but suddenly realized it was just a feint. The moment their fists made contact, Hansen's fist had already changed direction, attacking another part of Budong Gaihao's body. Seeing this, Budong Gaihao quickly changed his posture, narrowly avoiding Hansen's attack. Seeing this, Fang Mingquan excitedly commented, B-God's phantom punch is simply divine. It's impossible to tell whether he's using any strength at all. If his opponent weren't the magistrate's iron arm boxer, they would have already been utterly defeated. How I wish I didn't understand. Mother painstakingly defends against Hansen's feints and real attacks. She thought resentfully, damn it. As long as I seize the opportunity when he throws a feint, and strike with a direct punch, I can win. Thinking this, she wished it were that easy. He seized the opportunity and punched Hansen. However, Hansen's punch was not a feint. It was a full-powered, real punch. After seeing Han Jie's punch land perfectly, Fang Mingquan immediately and excitedly commented, stillness is better than movement. Those who move too much always lose in a protracted battle. If this beautiful lady could maintain a defensive stance, there might still be a chance of victory. The defensive stance of iron arm fist is perfect. Under normal circumstances, it's impossible to break through it head-on. Therefore, B-God uses the way of reality and illusion to lure the opponent into making mistakes. The moment a mistake appeared, perfect defense became impossible. After the match ended, Han Jie directly logged out of the virtual platform. On the other hand, Ji Yanran was in her dorm on the Eternal Goddess ship, happily listening to Kun Kun's single. At this moment, Han Sen suddenly sent a video call. Looking at Ji Yanran's smiling face, Han Sen couldn't help but ask, "What's so happy?" Ji Yanran replied, "I just went to the League's official virtual battle platform. Look at B-God's match. It's so amazing." Han Sen was slightly stunned after hearing this. "Are you also a fan of B-God?" Ji Yanran smiled, "Yes, I'm a fan of B-God. Who wouldn't like such a heroic figure? He sacrificed himself to save those children back then. He fought a desperate battle with the Golden Horn Azura. He was truly so manly." Hearing this, Han Sen pretended to be displeased and said in a low voice, Hey, your boyfriend is still here. Isn't this inappropriate?" Ji Yanran said with a charming smile, "Darling, don't be so stingy. If you don't like it, I won't look. What B-God, a god nonsense. Where's anyone as amazing as our great God? 100 BS. Even a god wouldn't match a single toe of our great God. Great God, you are magnanimous. Please don't bother with a little insignificant person like me." Inside the Yongtan goddess dorm, Han Sen stroked his chin, thinking to himself, "I can't go back to the virtual battle platform for a while. It seems that if I want to practice the Dongxian scripture, I'll have to go to the military's virtual training camp." Han Sen was still thinking, when his communicator suddenly rang. Han Sen subconsciously assumed it was Ji Yanran. He casually answered the communicator, but the virtual image that popped up was Huangfu Pingqing. Seeing Huangfu Pingqing, Han Sen casually greeted her. "Senior Huangfu, why are you so free today?" Huangfu Pingqing got straight to the point, saying, "The gold coins have appeared again. You know that, right?" Han Jie shrugged helplessly and replied, "Among the evolvers, I'm afraid there aren't many who don't know." Huangfu Pingqing continued to ask after hearing this, "Do you think that person's gold coins are real?" Han Sen nodded directly. "I think they are." After hearing Han Sen's answer, Huangfu Pingqing asked doubtfully, "Why?" Han Sen casually gave a reason, "Because of intuition." Han Sen said that, simultaneously thinking to himself, "That person is me. How could I not know?" After hearing Han Sen's words, Huangfu Pingqing fell into thought. She rubbed her chin. "It seems we're on the same page. But B-God's improvement speed is too fast. I wonder which shelter he's in." After hearing Huangfu Pingqing's words, Han Sen seemed to casually ask, "Why do you want to know that? Could it be that His Imperial Majesty wants to seek revenge on Jinbi?" Huangfu Pingqing shook her head and chuckled. She said, "Although my cousin hates Jinbi, he's not that bored. The reason I want to investigate Jinbi is mainly because of the movement techniques he used in battle. It's very similar to the heaven soaring technique." Hearing this, Han Sen immediately looked puzzled and asked, "Even if the gold coins use the heaven soaring technique, what does that have to do with you?" Huangfu Pingqing explained, "In the current alliance, there should only be two people who understand the Ben Tian technique. One is my grandmother, and the other is my grandmother's disciple. I haven't even learned the Yi Tian technique. If the gold coins really use the Ben Tian technique, our Zhanshan Martial Arts Hall must investigate this thoroughly." After hearing Huangfu Pingqing's explanation, Han Sen was momentarily stunned. Then he asked Huangfu Pingqing, "Your grandmother's disciple, is she the Empress from the Empress restaurant?" Huangfu Pingqing looked at Han Sen in surprise and asked, "How did you know?" "I don't think I ever told you." Han Sen smiled slightly after hearing this. "I met the Empress on the dueling ground battle platform. I even learned some movement techniques from her. It helped me a lot. I wonder if it's the heaven soaring technique you mentioned." After hearing Han Sen's words, the surprised expression on Huangfu Pingqing's face became even more intense. "How is this possible? The Empress would actually teach you the heaven soaring technique? Show me the movement techniques you've learned. Let me see." Upon hearing this, Han Sen briefly demonstrated what he'd learned from the Empress. A mere glimpse of it. He didn't reveal the parts related to the Dongxian Sutra. However, this also greatly surprised Huangfu Pingqing. Huangfu Pingqing said to Han Jie, "You were actually able to impress the Empress. You truly are a highly talented person. Perhaps you can." "Right, I have something to do. I'll go first. I'll find you next time." Huangfu Pingqing seemed to have thought of something. He spoke incoherently for a couple of sentences. Then he hung up the communication without a word. Han Sen looked at the darkened screen with a frustrated expression. He had never seen Huangfu before. Pingqing looked so flustered. Just as Han Sen was lost in thought, a clicking sound suddenly came from his soul sea. Han Sen immediately reacted. His face instantly showed surprise. A joyful expression. The super beast soul, a rampaging beast soul. Blood snail pet, armored type. As Han Sen's consciousness looked towards his own soul sea, he immediately saw the blood-red blood snail. From afar, it looked like a mass of burning blood. Han Sen excitedly yelled in his heart, "Rampaging beast soul." It was worth the wait of several months. Han Sen thought for a moment, then went to a training ground. He immediately summoned the Golden Sandworm King Beast Soul. Then he attached the Blood Snail Beast Soul to his body. Blood red armor, instantly transforming the Golden Sandworm King into a crimson armored vehicle. It looked both ferocious and domineering. Han Sen used 30% of his strength, and slammed it against the Golden Sandworm King. A loud bang echoed, although Han Sen blasted the Golden Insectoid King back a little. Protected by the Super Pet armor, the Golden Insectoid King wasn't even slightly injured. Seeing this, Han Sen was overjoyed. He once again gathered 6 points of strength. He punched at the Golden Insectoid King. A loud bang echoed. This time, the Golden Insectoid King retreated a further distance. But still, he hadn't injured the Golden Insectoid King in the slightest. Han Sen no longer hesitated. He unleashed a powerful blow, a punch aimed at the Golden Killer Insect King. The Golden Killer Insect King was sent flying by the impact, protected by the Super Pet armor. The Golden Killer Insect King wasn't seriously injured. The Super Pet armor only dented slightly. It wasn't shattered. This result made Han Sen both surprised and disappointed. The Blood Nest Worm hadn't been evolved into a second-tier Protector Beast Soul, like the Holy War Angel. Although the Blood Nest Worm Beast Soul was a Berserk Super Beast Soul, this level was only equivalent to the Divine Blood Beast Souls in the second-tier Protector. It seems not all Beast Souls can evolve like the Holy War Angel. Han Sen suddenly had an idea. He thought to himself, what if I directly transform the Beast Souls in the second shelter? I wonder if they can all evolve into a Berserk state. If they can, then I'd really strike it rich. Hearing this, Han Sen couldn't help but laugh. He had completely lost the mood to train. Through the teleportation device on the goddess ship, Han Sen once again entered the second shelter. In the midst of an icy wasteland. It seemed Li Xinluan was right. The resources in this ice-field region are barely enough to support such a large human population. We've been traveling for days and haven't even encountered a single mutated creature. If humanity wants more resources, we have no choice but to conquer the royal family's shelter, and open a passage to the outside world. Just then, a sound suddenly came from the distant valley below. Han Sen looked towards the source of the sound. He saw that the royal alien spirit was riding a large, snow-white reef serpent, advancing across the ice field. A large group of alien creatures followed behind. I don't know where they're going. He glanced at a few of the divine blood creatures among them. Han Sen immediately abandoned the idea of a surprise attack and hunt. He thought to himself, last time, I had the news base and the shelter as backup. Now, I'm going in alone. I'm going in alone. It's no different from suicide. Wait, he's left the royal sanctuary now. Now's not a bad time to steal the soul, then. Thinking this, Han Sen immediately rushed towards the royal family's sanctuary. When Han Sen truly reached the imperial family's shelter, he was completely stunned by the sight before him. The imperial family's shelter was simply not comparable to any noble shelter. It couldn't be described as a castle. It was more like a huge town. Looking out, I can't even see the end. He thought to himself, this is freaking huge. If I could take it down, just collecting taxes would make me a fortune. It wouldn't be any worse than a large commercial city. The money I could get my hands on would be astronomical. Let's get the royal spirit first. As for this royal sanctuary, when I'm stronger, I'll make sure they let me have it. Han Sen decided to return to the Alliance temporarily. He'll deal with this after he finishes his current tasks. This royal spirit. The martial competition isn't for the entire Alliance army. It's only for the Yongtai goddesses. Southwest Star System Military District. Each unit in the Southwest Star System Military District will send participants in one venue. The Central Star System Military District's Blue Bloods. The Special Forces marched into the venue in an orderly manner. One person from the Southwest Star System Military District couldn't help but say to the person beside him, why are the Blue Blood Special Forces here? Aren't they from the Central Star System District? The person beside him replied, haven't you heard? Ji Yanran is choosing her guards. That Blue Blood Fox actually gave up the Central Star Sector's martial competition, and came all the way to our Southwest Star Sector to participate in the competition preparations. A local soldier said. Tai Yi is even participating in our sector's martial competition. Then wouldn't we just become Cianian fodder? Another soldier returned, hoping that Zheng Yuza from our district can suppress that blue blood tiger, and win some honor for our Southwest district. Listening to their discussion, Han Sen silently committed those two names to memory. A tall figure appeared at the entrance to the preparation area. Han Sen immediately felt a wave of oppression. The figure didn't even glance at Han Sen. He walked towards the preparation area, looking at the figure like an iron tower. Han Sen's heart stirred slightly. That must be Tai Yi, the blue blood tiger. Tai Yi ignored the attention from his surroundings. He walked straight to a young man and stopped. Are you Zheng Yuza? The young man nodded slightly and said, I am. Hearing this, Tai Yi simply said, very good, and sat down beside him. Seeing this, a wave of discussion rippled through the surrounding crowd. Is that it? I'm scared to death. I thought they were going to fight. Han Sen thought to himself. This guy doesn't take the rest of us seriously at all. He must think. Only Zheng Yuze is worthy of being my opponent. Heh, let's see who's better in the martial arts competition. The grand martial arts competition will begin soon. The participating soldiers lined up and entered the competition field. The first event is a strength test. The strength testing instruments were placed directly on the field. It's like a giant drum. The officer in charge addressed everyone. Everyone pay attention. Soldiers competing can use any means to strike the drum face. The higher the power displayed, the better the score. Only the soldiers with the top 4 cumulative scores can participate in the Soldier King fighting competition. Test begins. The first soldier to appear delivered a powerful knee strike to the drum and scored 101 points. Several soldiers went up to test. Their scores were basically all above 10. Han Sen thought to himself. These are basically all evolvers with physical fitness exceeding 100. Now my physical fitness is also around 100. After using the ancient evil curse and overloading, with strength and speed, breaking 100 is easy. Just as Han Sen was deep in thought, the officer's voice instantly caught his attention. It wasn't just any officer. It was Tai Yi, the Blue Blood Tiger, representing the Blue Blood Special Forces. Under the gaze of all the participating soldiers, Tai Yi calmly threw a punch. A muffled thud echoed. The score on the screen jumped rapidly. Finally, it stopped at 113.75. Seeing this, Han Sen thought to himself, this physical condition, he must have at least 70 or 80 points of divine genes, right? My divine genes are only a few points. This guy's genes are already close to those of an evolved being. Almost perfect, right? And this definitely isn't his full strength. It seems Tai Yi is even stronger than I imagined. I hope my power can break through his defenses. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome. Han Sen's main concern is still Tai Yi's super diamond body. The remaining contestants continue to step forward for testing. It was Zheng Yuze's turn soon. Zheng Yuze came to the drum and took a deep breath. Then he punched it hard. A loud bang echoed. The number on the screen stopped at 114.26. In a room on the viewing platform, the Southwest Military Region commander praised him, saying, Zheng Yuze is quite good. Hearing this, the clerk standing nearby couldn't help but say, Commander, I think Zheng Yuze is probably no match for Tai Yi. Zheng Yuze had already used all his strength in that last strike. Tai Yi clearly still had plenty of energy left. The superior officer replied nonchalantly upon hearing this. How many resources were spent on the Blue Blood Special Forces? And how many resources did Zheng Yuze have? To achieve such results is already enough to prove Zheng Yuze's excellence. The clerk whispered in reply. This way, we will have no contact with the Ji family. The superior paused and said, we didn't have much of a chance anyway. By the way, how strong are the other two? The document replied. There's also a Major Wang Gang, an elite in the army, but he falls short compared to Zheng Yuze. As for the Han Sen that Ji Yanran herself recommended, I've already checked into his background. He and Ji Yanran are in a relationship. I'm watching Ji Yanran. My original intention was to have Han Sen directly become her bodyguard, but I was forced to give up due to pressure. Among those people, Han Sen was the least competitive. While when Shu was speaking, it was finally Han Sen's turn. Han Sen stood before the drum, taking a deep breath. Then, a fist broke through the air and slammed heavily onto the drumhead. A loud bang echoed. The numbers on the display screen changed rapidly. Finally, it stopped at 111.1111. After seeing Han Sen's score, several soldiers from the Southwest Military Region immediately stepped forward and offered praise. At this moment, the clerk's cold sweat started to pour out. Han Sen's performance was vastly different from what the clerk's investigation had revealed. This was tantamount to his dereliction of duty. The clerk hurriedly said to his superior, I'm sorry, Commander. I'll immediately reinvestigate Han Sen's file. The commander waved his hand and smiled slightly. No need for that much trouble. This is the best testing ground. Just watch. The strength test is over. We'll soon move on to the second test item. The second event is actually the extreme sprint. The host officer addressed the crowd. Everyone, pay attention. This extreme sprint mode has been adjusted to a level 1 difficulty with 10 times the gravitational pull. Participants whose physical fitness scores are below 100 might not even be able to run inside. As the officer finished speaking, the first test officially began. Half an hour later, a soldier said worriedly, this extreme sprint has almost eliminated us. Half of the Southwest Military Region's personnel are gone. At this rate, won't victory inevitably belong to Tai Yi? Another soldier replied with a chuckle after hearing this. Who says Tai Yi will definitely pass? While that soldier was speaking, it was finally Tai Yi's turn to take the test. Tie's strong body was like a powerful and agile robot, leaping and bounding across the metal arms. He seemed unbound by gravity. Without a single mistake, he maintained the same speed throughout. He dashed past one metallic arm after another. The soldier who had spoken earlier, upon seeing this, quickly exclaimed, "Whoa, how come he looks completely unaffected by gravity? I take back what I just said. This Tai Yi is truly terrifyingly strong." Listening to the discussions around him, Han Sen thought to himself that this Tai Yi was indeed an extremely formidable figure. Not only did he possess powerful physical abilities and incredible sensitivity, but he also had an outstanding strategic vision. It seems, he wasn't fazed at all by the 10-star difficulty's ultimate sprint. It's really a bit tricky. Finally, Tai Yi perfectly passed the ultimate sprint test. He acted as if it were a trivial matter. He calmly walked off the testing field. Seeing this, the officer announced, "Next, Zheng Yuze." It was Zheng Yuze's turn to be tested. Unfortunately, although Zheng Yuze tried his best, he only managed about 70%. In the end, he fell from the metal wall. It made many soldiers secretly sigh in their hearts. The soldier standing behind Han Sen patted Han Sen on the shoulder and said, "Brother, do you have confidence? Now we can only rely on you." Han Sen smiled and said, "No problem." After hearing Han Sen's reply, Tai Yi scoffed disdainfully. In his opinion, an ordinary soldier was simply no match for him. The Blue Blood Special Forces were the elite of the elite. Naturally, he's far superior to ordinary soldiers. Before coming here, he already had a thorough understanding of his three opponents. He knew Han Jie got in through connections, a show-off on the Shirchun Nushin goddess of show. So, Han Sen wasn't even on his list of recognized opponents. Even Han Sen's physical capabilities, slightly exceeding his expectations, still didn't earn Tai Yi's respect. Soon it was Han Jie's turn for the test. Han Sen silently thought, "Gravity 1. Relying on my physical condition, only under overloaded conditions, can I run inside." Test start. Han Sen quickly moved along the metal wall. His movements were incredibly fluid. The commander, upon seeing this, exclaimed, "Excellent. For someone Han Sen's age, to be able to control his body with such precision and finesse, is truly remarkable." Han Sen meanwhile, moved nimbly across the metal wall. While jumping, I secretly analyzed in my heart, "I'm afraid my physical condition can hardly support me through the entire test." Zheng Yuze failed to reach the end because of physical exhaustion. I must, perfectly allocating physical strength to the moments I need it. I can't waste a single bit of energy. Watching Han Sen's smooth and flowing movements, Tai Yi furrowed his brows and thought to himself, "This guy is really strange. It's almost as if his control over his body isn't human. Every bone in his body, every muscle fiber, operated with the most efficient and concise movements. That almost mechanical, perfect fluidity, looked more like it was controlled by a supercomputer. But, lack of hard power can't be compensated for by skill. Reasonable allocation can maximize the effect of strength, but you need to have strength to allocate in the first place." When Han Sen had run halfway, he was already drenched in sweat. He looked like he'd just been pulled out of the water, but his eyes remained firm. He continued to advance rapidly at his own pace. A few minutes later, Han Sen saluted the supervising officer. "Sir." Cook Han Sen completes the test. "Awaiting your instructions, sir." The test continues. Han Sen is now suffering from severe muscle aches. Fortunately, the following items are not very physically demanding. Whether it's shooting competitions, power armor assembly competitions, or power armor operation and combat competitions, etc. These technically demanding events have taken center stage in modern military competitions. They hold a prominent position. After several rounds of competition, the latest score rankings are out. 289.8. After seeing the ranking on the electronic screen, the presiding officer exclaimed in surprise, "Wait a minute, what is this? We can see that currently in first place is." It was actually an unknown cook. Tai Yi said to Han Sen, "Your performance was excellent, but the 2-point lead over me mainly relied on the advantage in the technical events. The final battle to decide the Soldier King is one-on-one free fighting." Tai Yi was full of confidence in the competition of individual physical strength. He didn't even consider Han Sen at all. At this time, the commander, holding a microphone, said, "Soldiers, the draw results for the King of Soldiers competition, please see the big screen." As the commander finished speaking, the 4 names on the big screen were divided into 2 groups. The grouping was determined by drawing lots. Han Sen and Tai Yi were lucky enough to be drawn in the same group. It can be said that the decisive battle has arrived early. This is good news for Han Sen. His physical strength has not yet fully recovered. If he fought a match first, then faced Tai Yi, I'm afraid his stamina would be even worse. Han Sen thought helplessly to himself, "If I could master the longevity spell of the ancient evil curse, I should be able to solve the problem of insufficient stamina. But the longevity spell is incredibly difficult to learn. I've practiced for so long and still haven't mastered it." Zheng Yuze's battle began first. This gave Han Sen more time to rest. Zheng Yu won in the end. Next up was the showdown between Han Sen and Tai Yi. Tai Yi walked onto the stage, and was even taller than Han Jie. Its imposing aura was full of pressure. Han Sen thought to himself, it's just a little taller than me. I haven't been afraid of creatures dozens of meters tall. Just as Han Sen was lost in thought, the whistle signaling the start of the competition blew. Han Sen didn't say a word, taking a step forward. He gathered all his strength in his left hand. His fist shot towards Tai Yi's chest. A loud bang echoed. Han Sen's fist directly struck Tai Yi's chest. Incredibly, Tai Yi stood there, unmoved, but his skin was a dark gold color. Tai Yi looked down on Han Sen in front of him. After Han Jie's punch, he quickly retreated 2 steps. At this time, his fist was already bleeding profusely. Unexpectedly, Han Sen, who launched the attack, ended up being injured instead. No one would believe this if I told them. The Southwestern Military Region soldiers saw this scene, and immediately started discussing it. A soldier said, this Tai Yi didn't even move an inch. He's so disrespectful. A fist landed on his body. Why isn't it reacting at all? Another soldier replied, of course it's not reacting. That's a top 10 ranked. Supernuclear gene count, super diamond body. I heard that even just a beginner, without a force exceeding 100 million units can't even break its defense. At that moment, the secretary secretly breathed a sigh of relief. However, this scene was clearly seen by the superior. He said to the secretary, calmly, you seem to have breathed a sigh of relief. Do you think Han Sen is going to lose? It's not your fault that you didn't investigate thoroughly. After all, you've never met Han Sen in person. But if you see him in person, and still can't make the correct judgment, that only shows you still have room for improvement. After hearing the superior's words, Wen Shu's expression froze for a moment. He spoke incredulously, Commander, you mean Han Sen will win? Upon hearing this, the commander didn't explain. He simply stared deeply at the 2 people on the battlefield. At this time, Tai Yi clenched his fists. Had enough? Tai Yi sneered at Han Sen. Saying this, Tai Yi walked towards Han Sen. Han Sen shook his slightly swollen hands and replied, enough. After hearing Han Sen's words, Tai Yi raised his fist, coldly saying, now it's my turn. Just as Tai Yi was about to take a step, Han Sen calmly said, I think you better not make a move. Xiao Xia said, looking at Han Sen whose face showed a strange smile. The deaf and blind Tai Yi didn't speak, asking why he said that. Han Sen chuckled lightly, because you've already lost. Hearing Han Sen's words, Tai Yi immediately let out a cold snort. Nonsense. He didn't want to say anything more to Han Sen. His dark gold fist smashed directly towards Han Sen, just like the previous Tai Yi. Faced with Tai Yi's furious punch, Han Sen stood there, unmoving. Seeing this, a soldier couldn't help but say, why doesn't Han Sen dodge? Does he have a super strong body too? Another soldier replied, how is that possible? Han Sen is so young. Then another soldier spoke up, didn't he just say Tai Yi had already lost? Maybe there's a reason. Amidst everyone's questioning gazes, Tai Yi's fist stopped just 10 centimeters from Han Sen. 10 centimeters. It abruptly stopped. Han Sen didn't even open his eyes. He calmly said, I already told you. You'd better not try anything. At that moment, Tai Yi's face showed a look of surprise. His face was pale. Cold sweat was already beading on his forehead. Looking closely, one could see Tai Yi's body trembling slightly. Han Sen sighed and said, you didn't listen to me. Now, I'm afraid you'll have to suffer a bit. Tai Yi opened his mouth to speak, but he couldn't utter a single word. He spat out a mouthful of blood. His dark gold skin turned pale in an instant. The areas where Han Sen had struck him, a crimson fist print seeped out. With a thud, Tai Yi collapsed powerlessly to the ground. Han Sen watched Tai Yi and said calmly, my great yin-yang magnetic Xianian, which I've practiced so hard for so long, has finally been put to use. You're far too confident in your physical condition and super diamond body. Really? You didn't even block my attack. That saved me a lot of effort. I used yin energy to strike into your body, causing internal injuries. That's why I told you not to move. Forcing yourself will only worsen your internal injuries. And so, Han Sen won his match against the Blue Blood Tiger. The final match was against Cheng Yuza, whose physical condition was similar to his own. Han Sen won the fight again. The leader smiled down at Han Sen. This Han Sen is quite good. His skill in Yin Jin is admirable. He's someone who can endure loneliness. A young man who has cultivated Yin Jin to this level. His future is limitless. The superior officer finished speaking and turned to leave in quick strides. Seeing this, the clerk blankly asked, Sir, where are you going? The superior officer calmly replied, Award ceremony. A few minutes later, the superior officer held a certificate and solemnly said to Han Sen, the title of Southwest King, although many are born every year, it's still very valuable, especially since you defeated the Blue Blood Tiger, Tai Yi, and won this title, making it exceptionally dazzling. Nowadays, fewer and fewer young people are truly pursuing martial arts. Only practicing martial arts without seeking the Tao will never allow you to reach the highest echelons. You have the bearing of a great master. Your future is limitless. Night fell. In the infirmary, on a sickbed, Tai Yi spoke to the person in front of him with bitterness. Captain, I'm sorry. I messed it up. The man smiled slightly upon hearing this. Little kitten, you don't need to be sad. People only grow through their mistakes. A man who has never made a mistake, that only means he's an inexperienced, sheltered young sprout. You're still a little kitten now, but after experiencing repeated mistakes, one day you will become a true blue-blooded tiger. Mistakes aren't bad for you. As long as you haven't died, those mistakes will eventually become your best nourishment. After hearing what the man said, Tai Yi, who was as strong as an iron tower, unexpectedly started to sob. On the frozen lake outside the Xingluan shelter, Han Sen arrived and discovered that there was no difference between this place and the glacial zone. The ground was thick layers of ice. Even the thinnest parts are a couple of meters thick. The frozen lake is close to the sea. It's highly likely that the underground connects to the sea. The lake surface is frozen year-round. People and horses can walk on it without any problem. After Han Sen made a hole in the ice, he just sat in the chair and started fishing. After a few hours, a surprised exclamation suddenly reached his ears. "It's you." Han Sen just turned his head, when a huge figure came towards him. Guan Tong grabbed Han Sen's hand excitedly and said, "Thank you. Thank you for saving Xingluan shelter." Han Sen said casually, "It was nothing, just a small favor. But I do want to thank you for carrying me back that day. Right, go fishing quickly. If you're any later, there won't be any good spots left." Han Sen read a book while fishing. Less than 2 hours, he had already caught 4 green-scaled fish and 3 golden knife fish. On the other hand, Guan Tong, she fished for 2 hours straight, but didn't catch a single fish. Hans Han walked over to Guantong with a plate of prepared fish fillets. He approached Guantong. He said, "Guantong, this fish is delicious. You should try some." Guantong felt a little embarrassed at his words. She was about to speak, but a discordant voice sounded from behind. "My friend, you have quite an appetite. Even interested in hitting on that tomboy." Hearing this, Han Sen coldly spat out one word, "Scram." After hearing Han Sen's words, the leader, the blonde-haired man, sneered, "Kid, you have quite a temper. But, I'm afraid you haven't quite figured out whose territory this is. The rules set by our boss, Black God, the frozen lake's yield, must be handed over, half to our Black God shelter. You have 7 fish here. Brother will give you a discount. I'll only charge you 3 golden knife fish." Han Sen naturally also heard about this frozen lake, being relatively close to the 3 largest areas on the ice field. One of the shelters, the Black God shelter, The people at the Black God shelter will charge a small fee here. But usually it's just one primitive grade fish. Then you can fish for as long as you like. These people demanded 3 fish from Hansen right away. And they were the 3 most valuable golden knife fish. Clearly, they were envious of Hansen's harvest. They planned to heavily extort him. Hansen swiftly threw the leading blonde-haired man to the ground. He said coldly to them, "I didn't want to break your rules either, but I don't want to hand over any fish now." The others, seeing that Hansen dared to make a move, without saying a word, immediately summoned their beast souls, and attacked Hansen. Hansen killed them all on the spot. This scene, it was all witnessed by the distant Black God sanctuary. They saw it. He turned and ran immediately. He ran while shouting loudly, "You dare kill people from the Black God sanctuary? Our boss won't let you off." At this time, Guantong ran to Hansen's side and said, "You must leave quickly. People from the Black God's shelter are nearby. They'll be here soon." Hansen nodded slightly and said, "Okay, you should leave quickly too." After bidding farewell to Guantong, Hansen left Frozen Lake and walked across the ice field. He had only walked for about 10 minutes, when thousands of people, riding mounts, came rushing towards him. They immediately surrounded Hansen. Leading them was a middle-aged man wearing beast soul armor, holding a long sword. He coldly addressed Hansen, "Did you kill my men? Did you kill my men?" He Shen, holding a beast soul long sword, coldly said to Hansen. Hansen looked directly at He Shen. He calmly said, "They wanted to kill me. Of course I couldn't just stand there and wait to die." After hearing Hansen's words, He Shen didn't hesitate for a second, immediately slashing down at Hansen with his sword. The sword was as fast as a streak of black light. It flashed before Hansen. Seeing this, Hansen immediately summoned his ghost claw blade. He swept it towards the long sword in front of him. It seemed the ghost claw blade was about to collide with the Black God's long sword. Suddenly, the sword strangely disappeared. When it reappeared, the blade struck Han's chest. A loud bang echoed. A large amount of blood spurted from the wound. Luckily, Hans had retreated half a step in time. This lessened much of the force of the blow. Otherwise, that blow would have already disemboweled him. Hansen, greatly startled, quickly retreated several steps. He thought to himself that this person's swordsmanship was extremely strange. His physical condition was also terrifyingly strong, certainly stronger than Tai Yi's. Han Jie wasn't killed by a single sword strike. This clearly exceeded the Black God's expectations. He was stunned. He charged towards Hansen again. At that time, 4 or 5 others among them summoned their beast soul weapons and rushed towards Hansen. Their speed was astonishing. Each of them was a powerhouse exceeding 100 in speed. Hansen knew he couldn't prolong the fight. Otherwise, he would die here. Hansen forcibly dodged their pincer attack. Unfortunately, Heishan's sword, he couldn't dodge it no matter what. The sword slashed. The flesh on Hansen's back was instantly ripped open. Crisis loomed. Hansen's Guxie curse and overloaded power erupted violently. Yi looked at 2 of them. He charged towards the direction they were guarding. He instantly broke through the 2 people's encirclement. Watching Hansen run towards the icy plains, Heishan immediately led everyone in pursuit. "We can't let him live, and leave this place." Seeing Heishan and the others closing in behind him, Hansen thought to himself, "These people are faster than me. We can't outrun them. There's only one way now. Only by escaping into the lake can we possibly avoid pursuit." Thinking this, Hansen immediately fled wildly towards the frozen lake. In a short while, Hansen arrived at the frozen lake. He spotted a fishing hole in the ice. He dove straight in. Feishan ordered his men, guard the surrounding ice holes. "I don't believe he won't come out. The water temperature under the frozen lake is extremely cold. Even a person with exceptional physical fitness can't last down there. It can't last much longer. What's more, he can't breathe." So Heishan believes. Hansen couldn't have stayed underwater for 5 minutes. After Hansen went underwater, he wasn't frozen stiff as Heishan had expected. Although the lake water is extremely cold, Hansen's ice-like constitution wasn't developed for nothing. Plus, he also has the Zulinglang armor protecting him. Such coldness didn't affect him too much. However, Hansen didn't dare stay underwater for too long, because of his physique. Although Hansen can hold his breath underwater for a long time, he can only last for about 10 minutes. Any longer, and he can't manage. He hadn't swum far, when Hansen suddenly noticed something was wrong with the current behind him. When he looked back, a creature, entirely silver, looking like an electric mammoth, was charging rapidly towards him. He was startled. In the blink of an eye, the electric mammoth charged to Hansen's front. Hansen didn't hesitate. He immediately summoned the ghost claw blade beast soul. As the electric barbarian charged, Hansen suddenly dodged to the side. The ghost claw blade slid across the electric barbarian's body, hooking itself into the electric barbarian's body in an instant. With that single strike, Hansen could confirm that this electric eel was definitely a mutated creature of the god blood plague. After the ghost claw blade hooked into the electric eel's body, Hansen immediately acted like he was climbing an electric pole, his hands and feet clinging to the electric eel. No matter how the electric eel thrashed, he wouldn't let go. Han Sen thought to himself, with the ghost claw blade's poison, this guy shouldn't be able to last much longer. Han Sen clung to it for a while, but he increasingly felt something was wrong. This thing was actually swimming deeper and deeper. The water pressure around them was increasing. Given Han Sen's physique, and the snow spirit wolf armor he's wearing, he still felt a bit uncomfortable from the pressure. This guy, isn't he afraid of poison? Han's hand lay on the electric eel, thinking dejectedly. The next second, he suddenly felt his body lighten. Even his breathing became easier. Han Sen's first thought was that the electric eel must have leaped out of the water. But on second thought, he felt something was wrong. Han Sen quickly opened his eyes to check. The sight before him instantly stunned him. With a bang, Han Sen and the electric eel together crashed onto the crystal-like ground. Fortunately, Han Sen reacted extremely quickly, turning over onto the electric eel before they hit the ground. He used the electric eel as a cushion. I myself haven't suffered much damage. The electric eel struggled and let out a roar at Han Sen. The man and the eel engaged in a fierce battle once more. Perhaps it was because the ghost claw blade's poison was taking effect. Han Sen killed the electric eel without much effort. A voice echoed in Han Sen's mind. Hunt successful. Obtain silver scale beast soul from hunting the divine blood creature, silver scale. Consuming its flesh grants 0 to 10 points of divine genes. Han Sen was overjoyed, but his gaze wasn't on the silver scale. Instead, it was fixed straight ahead. His face was full of disbelief. Han Sen didn't know if the legendary underwater city of Atlantis really existed, but this place was absolutely as shocking a discovery as that. Atlantis. A huge crystal sailboat was seen submerged at the bottom of the sea. The surrounding water mysteriously flowed around it. The crystal sailboat formed a spherical, vast, waterless space at the bottom of the sea. Hansen and Enlin fell beside the crystal sailboat. As far as Hansen could see, he didn't see any signs of joining. It was as if it were carved from a single piece. Such a large-scale project is still possible within the Alliance. But within the shelter, there are simply no large-scale machines available. It's impossible to carve it by hand. Just as Han Sen was lost in thought, on this mysterious crystal ship, sounds were actually coming from it. Han Sen quickly looked towards where the sounds were coming from. He saw something crawling out from the cabin of the crystal ship, a glittering expanse of gold. It was a golden crab. When Han Sen saw the golden crab, he was slightly stunned. That golden crab was actually climbing towards Enlin's body. Seeing this, Han Sen was instantly furious. Damn it, this guy actually wants to steal food from my mouth. I thought you were after me. I didn't expect you'd go after my prey. Don't you know that your brother is notoriously known for only taking, never giving? Ignoring his still healing wounds, Han Sen immediately summoned his ghost claw blade beast soul, and blasted it towards the golden crab. A loud bang echoed. The ghost claw blade directly struck the golden crab claw. Han Sen felt a tremendous force strike him. His entire arm went numb from the shock. His body involuntarily retreated more than 10 steps. He finally managed to regain his footing. Han Sen thought to himself, such powerful strength. What does this guy want? While Han Sen was pondering, the golden crab moved its 8 legs, its body swiftly moving toward Han Sen. Seeing this, Han Sen turned around and fled around the crystal sailboat. He ran, thinking to himself, what the hell? What kind of crazy crab is this? This is too fierce. The golden crab chased Han Sen for several laps, but couldn't catch him. Then it lunged at the silver-scaled creature again. Watching golden crab's back, Han Sen thought to himself, I wonder if that guy ate poisonous silver scale rainbow. Would its flesh and blood also be poisoned? No. What if he's immune to poison? I can't waste such good god blood flesh and blood. Thinking of this, Han Sen immediately from behind charged towards the golden crab, preventing the golden crab from eating silver scale's flesh. With a clang, Han Sen was once again forced back several steps. He sneered at the golden crab, I don't believe it. I can't be defeated by just one crab. As long as I find your weakness, you're finished. Han Sen carefully observed the golden crab, hoping to find its weakness. If it were an ordinary crab, the joints and the connections between the upper and lower shells are all weak points. However, this golden giant crab is clearly different. It has absolutely no gaps on its body. Its joints seem harder than other parts. Just as Han Sen was feeling depressed, he saw the golden crab. He waved a golden crab claw at Han Sen. Seeing this, Han Sen thought to himself, is it going to attack me? It doesn't seem like it. Could it be that it wants me to go over there? While Han Sen was pondering, the golden crab continued. He waved at Han Sen a few times. Han Sen thought he had seen wrong. He rubbed his eyes. Sure enough, he saw the golden crab beckoning him. Han Sen said with a speechless expression, whoa, it really is calling me over. Is this crab up to something? Han Sen remained unmoved. The golden crab gestured again and again. Bubbles of white liquid kept coming from its mouth. It seemed extremely anxious. Han Sen scratched his face. He said awkwardly, I know you're in a hurry. but I don't understand crab. After thinking for a moment, Han Sen directly summoned Xueji. He asked Xueji, can you understand what he's saying? Xueji answered very decisively, no. If I understand him correctly, he wants to split the creature's body with you. After understanding the golden crab's meaning, Han Sen gestured to the golden crab while saying, half is not enough. I want 2/3. This time, the golden crab was completely baffled. He stared at Han Sen with wide eyes. Bubbles kept coming from his mouth. He even scratched his head with a claw in a surprisingly human-like way. Han Sen gestured for him to move aside. The golden crab shifted its body to the side. He did this several times. Han Sen was certain. The distance between the golden crab and the silver scales corpse was perfectly safe. He gestured at about 2/3 of the silver scales body. Then he pointed to the remaining small portion. And then he pointed to the golden crab. Finally, he pointed at the larger portion and then at himself. This time, the golden crab seemed to understand. He swayed his crab claws, while moving all 8 legs at once. Then he scurried back to the side of the silver scale orb's body. He watched as the golden crab charged towards him. Han Sen was so scared that he quickly backed away several steps. But the golden crab showed no intention of chasing him. Instead, it used its claws to gesture at the middle of the body, meaning, half for each of us. This giant golden crab was just like an old woman haggling at the market. Inch by inch, no concessions. Han Sen couldn't believe it. He was actually haggling with a giant crab here, using gestures, bargaining. The man and the crab argued for quite a while. When the final agreement was reached, Han Sen got approximately March 5th. The golden crab got 2 out of 5. Watching the golden crab, clutching 2/5 of the silver-scaled flesh, leave, Han Sen cursed silently in his heart, eat it. I hope it poisons you, you unlucky crab. Han Sen was worried that after the crab was eaten, Yi Wu would come and snatch his. He summoned it. The Holy War Angel. It was Han Sen's main force for slaying super-god creatures later on. Getting her promoted to combat status soon is crucial to Han Sen. Feeding her god-level flesh is not a loss. Han Sen ate the silver scale's flesh, while checking the information on the silver scale beast soul, water-type mount. Only the silver scale rainbow. Clearly written on the beast soul are the 4 characters, water-type mount. Seeing this, Han Sen was overjoyed. Whoa, it's actually a water-type mount. Lately, whenever I hunt god-blood creatures, I get beast souls. My luck is unbelievably good. After eating for a while, Han Sen stood up, said to the Holy War Angel, you eat quickly. Watch out for that crab coming to steal food. I'll go and check out that crystal sailboat first. At this time, the golden crab had already climbed into the cabin. Han Sen took this opportunity to climb onto the crystal boat. The crystal ship is very large, entirely carved from crystal. But it's impossible to see inside the ship. This feels very strange. Just as Han Sen wanted to get closer to see inside the cabin, and see if there was anything else, the crab suddenly charged out from inside. It viciously shook its 2 crab claws at Han Sen. Seeing this, Han Sen quickly retreated 2 steps. He smiled ingratiatingly at the golden crab. My friend, don't get excited. I was just looking around. I mean no harm. The golden crab didn't understand a word Han Sen was saying. It brandished its claws, threatening Han Sen not to approach. Seeing this, Han Sen could only helplessly return. A few minutes later, Han Sen hung the leftover silver-scaled fish, with a rope at the bow of the boat. He secretly laughed to himself. I don't believe you won't fall for it. After hanging up the silver scales, Han Sen hid to the side and secretly watched. Half an hour later, sure enough, he saw the golden crab, peeking its head out and crawling out. Watching the golden crab, it was so close to reaching the silver scale rainbow's body, but it couldn't quite reach it no matter what. Han Sen secretly chuckled to himself, ha ha ha. This position was specifically designed for you. It's not going to be that easy to get it. Taking advantage of the golden crab leaving the crystal sailboat, Han Sen quickly flipped himself onto the deck, and then quickly rushed to the front of the cabin. Han Sen thought to himself, this golden crab is guarding the cabin so fiercely. Let me see what's inside. What secrets are hidden on this ship? After Han Sen arrived in the crystal cabin, Han Sen hesitated for a moment. He didn't know whether he should break open these huge crystal boxes here. He thought to himself, there won't be any pirate treasure in here, or anything like a ghost ship's curse, will there? Greed and curiosity ultimately triumphed over reason. To be on the safe side, Han Sen directly summoned Xueji. He commanded Xueji, addressing the snow crystal, to open the box. After hearing Han Sen's order, Xueji immediately lifted the lid of the box. After a few breaths, seeing that nothing dangerous happened, Han Sen slowly approached the box. When he looked inside the box, he was instantly shocked by the sight before him. He saw a woman curled up inside the box, but the woman was clearly not a normal human female. Her lower body had a long fishtail. Her pale upper body was exposed to the air. Only 2 shell-shaped pieces protected a full bosom. After a long gaze, Han Sen's eyes were finally drawn to two things beside the woman. He thought to himself, the spirit staff, the soul stone. Could this mermaid-like creature? Is it a spirit? Logically, once the shelter is breached, the spirit shouldn't be able to escape, except for submitting. It would be destroyed along with the soul stone. How come this mermaid-like spirit, but it was put in this box? Could it be that this crystal sailboat is actually a shelter? Just as Han Sen was pondering this, a clicking sound suddenly came from outside. Han Sen knew without a doubt, it must be that golden crab returning. He quickly reached out and grabbed the spirit stone in his hand. Han Sen had just grabbed the soul stone when the golden crab had already charged into the hull. He saw Han Sen and then, he lunged forward, brandishing his crab claws. One man, one crab. They chased each other within the crystal cabin. With Han Sen's Qin Wang circling pillar maneuver, the golden crab was momentarily unable to catch him. As Han Sen dodged everywhere, only the sound of from inside the crystal box, a woman's voice suddenly rang out. Han Sen's heart leaped. Damn it! Has the alien spirit awakened? When Han Sen looked back, he saw that the alien spirit had already sat up. He looks like he just woke up. The golden crab was still chasing Han Sen at this time. The awakened aberrant noticed this scene. It immediately raised its scepter and pointed it at the golden crab. The golden crab immediately obediently retreated to the side. Han Sen wiped the sweat from his forehead. Finally, the chatter stopped. I'm exhausted. The mermaid spirit, holding the scepter, emerged from the crystal box. As she walked, a small wave rose up from beneath her fishtail, dragging her body forward. Mermaid spirit. She walked straight to Han Sen. She covered her chest with her right hand and bowed to Han Sen. The sea princess offers her loyal soul to her master, to become your most faithful servant. After hearing the sea god princess's words, Han Sen was instantly overjoyed, because only royal-blooded genospecies can call themselves princes or princesses. This mermaid was actually a royal-blooded genospecies. Han Sen once again happily obtained a beautiful genospecies. With the soul stone in hand, he didn't hesitate, immediately pressing the soul stone against the sea princess's forehead. In a flash of blue light, the soul stone and the sea princess became one. It transformed into a blue stream of light, shooting into Han Sen's soul sea. After Han Sen subdued the sea god princess, the golden crab suddenly became extremely ferocious. No longer constrained, the golden crab attacked Han Sen again. Han Sen dodged the golden crab's attack. He escaped the cabin. Han Sen immediately summoned the sea god princess. He commanded the sea god princess, take out that annoying giant crab. After hearing Han Sen's words, the sea god princess said respectfully to Han Sen, respected master, I don't have the ability to kill him. Han Sen was greatly surprised by this. He looked at the sea god princess questioningly and said, aren't you a royal alien spirit? Even if you can't kill that dead crab, but there must be some fighting power, right? The sea god princess replied apologetically, I'm sorry, master. I'm not a battle spirit. I don't have combat capabilities. I'm sorry to disappoint you. After hearing the sea god princess's words, Han Sen curiously asked, then what are your abilities? The sea god princess replied frankly, I can manipulate the crystal palace. The crystal palace is an eternal, indestructible sanctuary. As long as it doesn't leave the water, the crystal palace can go anywhere in the ocean. Any ocean. Even the depths of the ocean, tens of thousands of meters deep. After hearing the sea god princess's words, Han Sen's heart was filled with joy. Ha ha ha. Isn't that just a mobile fortress on the sea? Couldn't it carry me to hunt sea creatures? Thinking about it, that's not bad. Thinking this, Han Sen said to the sea god princess, alright, then bring the crystal palace here now. Get it over here. Upon hearing this, the sea god princess helplessly replied, I'm sorry, master. I can't do that now. I must be at the crystal palace's main control unit. Only then can I control the crystal palace. Han Sen said helplessly, forget it. I'll wait until I figure out a way to kill that giant crab. Then I'll come back and claim this crystal palace. Anyway, even if someone else discovers it, they won't be able to move this crystal palace. A secluded corner of Ice Cave Lake. A crackling sound echoed across the ice. Han Sen broke through the ice from underwater, crawling out. He shook off the water droplets and muttered to himself, safe. That golden crab can't do anything to me for now. Let's deal with the Black God Sanctuary first. If we want to deal with the Black God Sanctuary, we must first understand the details of the Black God Sanctuary. Knowing yourself and your enemy is crucial to victory. Inside the Star Price Sanctuary, Li Xingluan was overjoyed to see Han Sen. He smiled at Han Sen and said, Han Sen, where have you been these days? Why haven't you contacted me at all? Han Sen said. He directly explained his conflict with Black God. He turned to Li Xingluan and asked, do you know what kind of swordsmanship the Black God uses? And where did his swordsmanship originate? Li Xingluan replied after hearing this. I only know that his swordsmanship is called the Little Demon Peak swordsmanship. I know nothing else. After hearing Li Xingluan's words, Hansen felt he had heard the name of this swordsmanship somewhere before. After thinking hard for a while, Hansen finally remembered. Tang Zhenliu had once mentioned that one of the sword techniques he practiced was the Little Demon Peak swordsmanship. But in Han Sen's impression, Tang Zhenliu didn't have the ability to make his knife disappear mid-air. Han Sen thought to himself, could this black god be related to Tang Zhenliu? He decided to return to the alliance and ask Tang Zhenliu for information. To find out exactly what was going on with the Little Demon Peak knife technique, Han Sen emerged from the teleportation array on the Yongtai goddess. He saw Ji Yanran and her guards approaching him. Han Sen made a show of giving Ji Yanran a military salute. He watched Ji Yanran and her guards walk past him. Han Sen mentally cursed this pervert. Following Ma Ran for 24 hours. He probably has some ulterior motive. He returned to the dormitory. Han Sen immediately called Tang Zhen's contact. Tang Zhen smiled at Han Sen. Old Han, how does being a soldier feel? Hee. You have a beautiful woman with you. It's basically a vacation with a beauty. Lin Zi and I are miserable. It's either training or fighting the Azura. I almost lost my life a few times. Han Sen said doubtfully. How did you two end up at the front lines? With your backgrounds, staying in the rear should have been easy. Tang Zhen replied. It's all because of Lin Zi. That fellow, saying only this way can I train myself. I have to come to this kind of place. 3 days a small battle, 5 days a big battle. Everyone is almost driven mad. By the way, what's up with you suddenly finding me? Han Sen said directly. No, what's black? After listening to Hansen's account a few minutes later, Tang Zhenliu, his face full of anger, said, Old Han, if you have the chance, help me kill that bastard. The Little Demon Peak swordsmanship was originally one of our Tang family's secret martial arts manuals. Later, due to some family matters, the Xiamafeng swordsmanship was forcibly taken away. This was a disgrace for the Tang family. Hearing this, Han Sen breathed a sigh of relief and said, hearing you say that, I'm relieved. Begin. I was worried that you and he had a special relationship. I was afraid that after I killed him, I wouldn't be able to see you anymore. Tang Zhenliu responded viciously. I'll buy you drinks if he dies 1,000 deaths. Don't worry about the person behind He Shen, I'll take care of it. You'll go to the virtual training camp tomorrow. I'll explain it to you. The core secret of the Little Demon Peak swordsmanship. Time quickly passed, and it was the next day. When Han Sen entered the virtual training camp, he was immediately pulled into a sparring room by Tang Zhen. After Han Sen entered the room, he found that the room was already set to prevent observation. Seeing Han Sen's puzzled expression, Tang Zhenliu immediately explained, this is our Tang family's secret manual. It has been leaked once before, though, but we still need to keep things confidential. Time is short. I'll break down the movements and tell you the key points of the knife technique. Watch closely. Tang Zhenliu, having said this, slashed at Han Sen with his knife. Han Sen likewise swung his knife to parry. The two blades were about to clash, but Tang Zhenliu's blade mysteriously vanished from Han Sen's sight. When it reappeared, it had already struck Han Sen's chest. Tang Zhenliu explained to Han Sen, the knife didn't actually disappear. It's just that Xiamafeng's swordsmanship is too fast. That's why it creates the illusion that it disappeared. The knife you see is just the afterimage from the beginning. The real knife had already undergone a second acceleration during the process of being drawn. I moved to a different position. Before, my speed and power weren't enough. That's why the Little Demon Peak swordsmanship you saw didn't have that kind of effect. Now, my swordsmanship is absolutely no worse than the Black God's. Come again, come again. An hour passed quickly. No matter how Hans resisted, he couldn't defend against that strange swordsmanship. It always unexpectedly struck his body. Hans thought to himself, it's too fast. Although neither could grasp the other's movements. But Little Devil's wind blade technique is fast enough. It always manages to strike me first. Tang Zhenliu explained to Han Sen. Within the Little Devil's wind blade technique, it utilizes our Tang family's unique energy releasing skill. It can unleash an unimaginable speed in an instant. With the same physical fitness, it's generally impossible to withstand Xiao Feng's devilish blade technique, especially since He Shen's physical fitness surpasses yours. If you want to win against him, you can only rely on your body movements to evade, waiting for him to reveal a flaw. Otherwise, it will be difficult to win. I'll spar with you. It's just to let you familiarize yourself with the rhythm of the Little Demon Saber technique, and its range of attack. It will be easier for you to control the situation when you face him in the future. Tang Zhenliu finished speaking. He hastily exited the virtual training camp. Han Sen thought to himself, if it's just one-on-one, I can use my body skills and movements to maneuver against He Shen. It won't be easy for He Shen to defeat me, but that would mean I'd have to wait for He Shen to make a mistake. Only then will I have a chance to kill him. This means handing the initiative to win over to the Black God. No, I can't. What's more, the Black God is surrounded by experts. How can I possibly have a chance to fight the Black God one-on-one? Just as Han Sen was lost in thought, a call notification suddenly appeared. A call from TV Xiangfei. Han Sen hesitated slightly before accepting. Soon, the other party's voice rang out, "Coach, are you free to give me a lesson? I have a few questions about the last class. I'd like to ask you." Han Sen refused upon hearing this. "I'm afraid not today. Wait, I have a question for you. If you encountered something faster than, you have many opponents who are much faster, how would you deal with Xiangfei on the opposite side? That is, Qin Xian." He replied, "I would evade her with my body skills, and then look for an opportunity to strike." Han Sen continued to ask, "What if you can't dodge? It's a fight to the death." Qin Xian thought for a moment and replied, "Then I can only increase my own strength. If speed is high, strength will necessarily be low. If my strength is strong enough, even if they cut me, I won't die. I can kill him with one strike. That's one approach, I suppose." Han Sen shook his head upon hearing this. "What you said is a method, but it's not the answer I'm looking for." Han Sen thought to himself, "Haitian's power is far superior to mine. Even if it's a life for a life, I'll still be at a disadvantage." After hearing Han Sen's words, Qin Xian scratched his head and said, "I'm slow-witted, master. Please enlighten me." Han Sen had originally wanted to say he didn't know, but he suddenly remembered something. The last time he lectured to the Xiangfei Hall, he spoke about the techniques of the Dongxian Jing. At the time, he had casually mentioned a few techniques he practiced himself, but now, when I think of those few techniques, his eyes suddenly lit up. Got it. Sealing. The key to victory lies in sealing. Han Sen immediately pulled Qin Xian into the battle room. He asked Qin Xian, "Do you know how to use a fast knife, or a fast sword?" Qin Xian nodded and said, "Yes, a little, but I'm not very good at it." Han Sen casually replied, "Come on. Attack me with all your might." Qin Xian didn't stand on ceremony. She only thought to herself, "A lowly soldier on this warship dares to instruct her." She went all out. Her lightning-fast blade slashed towards Han Sen. Han Sen thought to himself, in the ancient military strategies, there's a tactic called attacking way to rescue Zhao. It means to strike at the opponent's vital point, forcing the opponent to give up the target they originally wanted to attack. Although Han Sen's hand knife was slower, and slower than Qin Xian's, but Han Sen's hand knife was placed in a very uncomfortable position for her. It left her unable to continue her attack. If Qin Xian forced the attack to continue, her own arm would collide with Han Sen's hand knife first. Qin Xian had no choice but to withdraw her hand, and look for another opportunity to strike. He changed his attacking position 7 or 8 times in a row, but he couldn't deliver a single, complete thunderbolt blade. He was forced to change his tactics mid-stroke every time. Therefore, Qin Xian was even more certain. The other party must be a big shot in the military. She said to Han Sen in front of her joyfully, "Disciple understands. Coach, you mean that even if the opponent is fast enough, as long as there is space and distance, we can remain still to control the situation. We can use the time allowed by the space and distance to respond." Han Sen smiled slightly, his hands clasped behind his back. "It's not entirely like that. You don't understand. With more practice, you'll naturally understand." Xiao Deng's nonsense animation. On the front lines fighting the Azura clan, a mecha squad vigilantly patrolled the surroundings. Inside the lead mech, Tang Zhenliu spoke into the microphone. "Patrol complete, Squad 3. No abnormalities detected. Requesting handover." Just as Tang Zhenliu finished speaking, a communication call came through. After seeing the name displayed on the communicator, Tang Zhenliu thought to himself that it was Han Sen. What could he want from me again? It's already handover time anyway. Tang Zhenliu, having nothing better to do, directly answered the communication. The communication connected. Han Sen immediately said to Tang Zhenliu, "Old Tang, when will you be going to the virtual training camp again? I found a way to seal the little demon wind blade technique." After hearing Han Sen's words, Tang Zhenliu exclaimed, "What are you talking about? Seal the little demon wind blade technique? Are you kidding me?" Half an hour later, the two of them directly battled in the virtual training camp. Tang Zhenliu originally thought this was impossible. This is their Tang family's secret swordsmanship. He knew all too well the power of this sword technique. But the more he sparred with Han Sen, the more Tang Zhen's thoughts wavered. When facing Han Sen, he found it difficult to make a move. He felt, it's like he's trapped in a cage overgrown with thorns. He tries to stretch his arm, and thorns already prick his elbow. He wants to stretch his legs, but finds his thighs are about to be pierced. That feeling made him want to vomit in frustration. Tang Zhenliu couldn't take it anymore. He threw his weapon to the ground. He addressed Han Sen, saying, "You're a pervert. A real pervert. You and Xiaolinzi are both perverts. How did you do that?" I felt completely powerless. This fight was incredibly frustrating. Han Sen chuckled upon hearing this and said, "While this move isn't effective against other sword techniques, it works. But against Xiao Mo's wind blade technique, I'm practically guaranteed victory. Hey Shen, you'd better not give me a chance. Continue practicing tomorrow." Tang Junliu replied, I'm not practicing anymore. Looking at your speed of mastering and then breaking through each technique. Fortunately, our Tang family's secret sword techniques aren't limited to just this one. Otherwise, when we meet again, I won't know what to use to fight you with. Tang Junliu made up his mind. From now on, in front of Han Sen, I will absolutely never use the Tang family's swordsmanship again. The next day arrived. On the glacial beach of the Shelter World, a large number of people from the Black God Shelter gather. Every year at this time, I don't know if it's because of the effect of the ocean's undercurrents or something else. They come to this glacial beach where there are no strange creatures. A large number of serpent-bone fish will come. Most serpent-bone fish are primitive-level creatures. However, if a serpent-bone fish school is large enough, it might give birth to mutated and godblood-level serpent-bone fish. Tens of thousands of serpent-bone fish crawl up from the deep sea every year. One can always harvest a few mutated serpent-bone fish. Fish and a divine blood serpent-bone fish king. This can be considered a black god, a fixed benefit of the shelter. Every year at this time, the Black God summons a large number of people to the glacial beach to hunt serpent-bone fish. Han Sen arrived at the glacial beach early to wait, but he didn't intend to hunt the serpent-bone fish. Han Sen thought to himself, I can't kill you now, but I'll still take some advantage first. While Han Sen was lost in thought, a man from the Black God's shelter on the beach shouted, Look at that. Another man, seeing this, exclaimed joyfully, It's the serpent-bone fish king. We're so lucky. A large number of serpent-bone fish. They swam rapidly from the sea towards the shore. The leading serpent-bone king was particularly conspicuous. Its color was completely different from the other serpent-bone fish. Therefore, it was easy to distinguish. After hearing everyone's calls, Han Sen was delighted in his heart. It's actually the god-written snake fishing king. Ha ha ha. I've waited so long, I finally didn't wait in vain. On the Ice River beach, at the command of Black God, everyone charged towards the serpent-bone fish swarm. The serpent-bone fish swarm, like moths to a flame, met the humans' weapons. Even the serpent-bone fish king is the same. The serpent-bone fish king flew directly up from the sea. Because it has a pair of fleshy wings on its back, it can glide in the air for a short time. The arrow struck the serpent-bone fish king, but simply slid off. It's 100 times more slippery than a loach. Han Sen thought to himself, so slippery. This way, I can't hurt the serpent-bone fish king at all. What method did He Shen and the others use in previous years to kill the serpent-bone fish king? Just as Han Sen was pondering this, the serpent-bone fish king plopped onto the ice. Seeing the serpent-bone fish king land, Han Sen instantly looked enlightened. So that's it. Although the serpent-bone fish king can fly, it can't stay in the air for long. Until he lands, he won't escape the weapon's attack. My turn. Han Sen secretly infiltrated this army of thousands. At the front of the army, He Shen shouted to everyone, surround it. Don't let it escape back to the sea. The severely injured snake-bone fish king immediately turned and fled towards the sea. Han Sen thought to himself, this is a good opportunity. If I could assassinate He Shen here. The Black God's sanctuary is leaderless. Taking the Black God's sanctuary will be much easier then. It will be much easier then. The snake-bone fish king leaped into the sea. The Black God's long sword followed closely behind, just as the Black God's long sword was about to fall. But suddenly, he heard his younger brother shouting at him, Big brother, watch out. He Shen behind him tried to dodge, but it was too late. He Shen felt a burning pain in his back. Han Sen let out a sigh of regret. If no one had reminded him, he would have felt that one claw could have instantly killed the Black God. The Black God was blasted and thrown to the ground by Han Sen's claw. He endured the pain in his back, roaring at Han Sen, It's you, you bastard. Meanwhile, several of Black God's men stood before him. After Han Sen failed to kill Black God with one blow, he immediately leaped towards the serpent-bone fish king. His ghost claw blade slashed down fiercely, instantly killing the severely wounded serpent-bone fish king. A wonderful sound echoed in Han Sen's mind. Hunt successful. Hunting the godblood serpent-bone fish king yielded no beast soul. Consuming its flesh allows you to obtain the godblood gene at any time. From 0 to 10 o'clock, Han Sen was seen slaying the serpent-bone fish king. He Shen roared angrily, You dog. I'll definitely kill you. Han Sen smirked upon hearing this. Today, I'll just collect a little interest. I'll come for your life another day. Han Sen summoned the silver scale rainbow. The beast soul plunged directly into the sea. In the blink of an eye, it vanished from everyone's sight. Night fell. In an unknown cave, Han Sen ate grilled fish while humming a tune. La 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 la. I'm a barbecue expert. So delicious. Hee hee hee. It's a pity that the snake-bone fish only comes ashore once a year. Otherwise, I'd grab one every day and be so happy. Just as Han Sen was lost in thought, footsteps suddenly sounded outside the cave. Han Sen looked towards the outside of the cave. A black figure was walking towards them. He thought to himself, could it be that Black God's men have caught up? Xiaolong Xiashuo animation, Han Sen summons the Ghost Claw Blade Soul Beast. Xiaoying Xiashuo animation, nervously watching the figure slowly approach. Only when the person drew closer, did Han Sen finally see his face clearly. To Han Sen's surprise, he actually recognized him. While not exactly familiar, the impression was still quite deep. This person was one of the 10 divine children in the first shelter, Itogi. Han Sen thought to himself, after that divine battle, I haven't heard any news of him. I never expected to meet him here. Itogi walked straight to Hansen's opposite side. Holding an alien creature, he asked Han Sen, trade this mutated creature for your roast meat. Han Sen didn't even think before replying, no way. He thought to himself, what a joke. This is the flesh and blood of a divine blood creature, and yours is just a mutated creature. Do you think I'm an idiot? Seeing Han Sen decisively refuse, Yi Dong furrowed his brows and continued, let me borrow your furnace for a bit. Name your price. Han Sen smiled upon hearing this. It's just a furnace, just take it and use it. After an hour, Han Sen looked at Itogi, who looked satisfied. He asked if he was full. Itogi nodded and said, I've been in the shelter for almost half a year this time. I haven't eaten anything cooked in so long. Having finished the last piece of roast meat in his hand, Yitonmo stood up and walked towards the cave entrance. Without looking back, he said to Han Sen, friend, thank you for the stove. I'm going to hunt a god-blood creature, and I need a helper. Are you willing to come? After the hunt, I can give you 10% of the meat. Han Sen replied with 2 words, 20%. Hearing Han Sen's words, Itomoku didn't haggle. He called Han Sen and they set off together. The two walked on the snow. Itomoku casually asked Han Sen, how long have you been in the shelter? I've been here for almost half a year, and I'm not sure what's going on outside. Have there been any recent news about gold? Han Sen replied after hearing this, I haven't been in the shelter for many days. As for gold, I heard that on the official virtual fighting platform, a person called Gold Coin Massacre appeared. He's won many matches in a row. Some say he is Gold Coin himself. I don't know if it's true or not. Hearing this, Ito immediately pressed for details. Han Sen briefly recounted what happened. After listening to Han Sen's account, Ito declared with certainty, it must be him. No one else could have done it to that extent. Han Sen was speechless. There must be many evolvers who can reach that level. He just hasn't encountered a truly powerful opponent yet. Following Itogi, we walked east along the glacier. Every 2 days, we reached the snowy mountain region. Han Sen said to Itogi, you don't want to go into the snowy mountains, do you? Hunt down the divine blood creature. Itogi replied, rest assured about that. There's no danger. I just need you to lure that creature out for me. Leave the rest to me. That thing has already suffered at my hands. He wouldn't dare show his face there. After walking for another few hours, Itogi found a spot and stopped. He said to Han Sen, I'll lie in wait here. You just walk around up ahead for a while. When that alien creature comes out, run towards me. Help me bury the snow. Han Sen buried Itogi in the snow, secretly chuckling to himself. Still the assassin's old trick, huh? After burying Itogi, Han Sen put his hands in his pockets and wandered around aimlessly. He looked for a long while. He didn't see any alien creatures anywhere. Just as Han Sen was about to lose his patience, he suddenly heard a sound of hooves in the distance. When Han Sen looked back, he saw an alien creature with a pair of antlers. It charged madly towards him. Han Sen, without a word, rushed straight towards where Itogi was ambushing. He rushed past, just as the alien creature passed Itogi's ambush. Yi Dongmu suddenly emerged from under the snow. The dagger instantly pierced the alien creature's abdomen. A long gash appeared. Even Han Sen couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Excellent swordsmanship and bodywork. Hearing Han Sen's praise, Itogi said seriously, if it were gold coins, you would have definitely done better than me just now. Hearing this, Han Sen thought to himself speechlessly, this guy can't say 3 words without mentioning gold coins. Could it be that I hit him too hard last time? After a pause, Han Sen walked up to the alien creature, and said, is this the divine blood creature you mentioned? It doesn't look like it. Itogi shook his head and said, it's not this one. This is a mutated creature. But this is good. We'll use this mutated creature's body as bait. That thing will come out more easily when it smells blood. You just stay here and eat the mutated creature's barbecue. After Itogi finished speaking, he dug a pit nearby. Then he lay down directly. Han Sen roasted the meat, while saying to Yi Dongmu, my brother, you don't have to work so hard, do you? Why don't you eat some meat before continuing? Yi Dongmu replied calmly, no need. If it were gold coins, he would have done a much better job. After hearing Itogi's words, Han Sen muttered to himself, he's gone completely mad. This guy is definitely insane. Just as Han Sen was enjoying his barbecue, a ferocious roar suddenly came from behind him. In a short while, he saw a creature resembling a triceratops, charging towards him. Seeing this, Han Sen immediately got up and ran away. The triceratops charged to the location of the mutated creature. Without pausing, it continued charging towards Han Sen. Just then, Ito, hidden in the snow, suddenly burst from the pit. His seven-headed spear pierced directly into the Triceratops' abdomen. The horned dinosaur, in pain, immediately fell to its side. With a thud, the Triceratops crashed to the ground. Itoki seized the opportunity, quickly flipping himself onto its back. Then, he plunged the dagger down with all his might. However, to Itoki's surprise, his full-powered strike failed to fully penetrate the body of the Triceratops. The Triceratops, in pain, it actually struggled to its feet. It flung its four hooves and charged towards the snowy mountain. Seeing this, Itoki quickly shouted, "Come and help." Hansen shook his head upon hearing this and said, "That won't do. We had an agreement. You'll give me 20% of the meat. I'm only responsible for luring this divine blood creature out." After hearing Hansen's words, Ito Muki anxiously shouted, "If this alien creature escapes, you won't even get a bit of its flesh." Hansen said indifferently, "If you want me to make a move, I can. But if we do that, the flesh and blood can't be divided like this. I need 60% of the flesh and blood." At this moment, Itoki didn't have the energy to argue with Hansen. He quickly spoke, "60% is fine. Help me kill him. Flesh and blood, you account for 60%. Hearing this, Hansen summoned the ghost claw blade and stood up. Itoki held onto the Triceratops tightly. The Jian said, "Help me distract its attention from the side." Hearing Itogi's strategy, Hansen's figure flashed, but he didn't heed Itogi's advice. Instead, he went ahead and came to the front of the Triceratops. Seeing this, Itogi anxiously shouted, "Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Do you want to be run over?" Hansen just stood there motionless. He let the Triceratops charge straight at him. It looked like he was about to collide with the terrifying Triceratops. At the very moment of impact, Hansen suddenly leaned back. Under Itogi's disbelieving gaze, Hansen lay on the ground between the Triceratops' legs. The ghost claw extended. With the terrifying impact force of the Triceratops, the ghost claw instantly pierced his stomach. A deep gash was left behind. The Triceratops, due to inertia, charged past. Hansen lay still on the ground. When Hansen finally stood up, the Triceratops had already collapsed to the ground. Hansen brushed the snow off himself. He silently thought to himself, "This bloodthirsty creature is quite thrilling. It's quite exciting." At this time, the Triceratops lay on the ground, barely alive. Right on its belly were 3 wounds that pierced its entire abdomen. Itoki stared intently at the wounds. He thought to himself, "In that fleeting moment we crossed paths. That person was able to inflict such a wound. I never expected that someone I met so casually would be such a master." He looked at Itogi, who was lost in thought. Hansen couldn't help but remind him, "If you don't act now, he'll die." After hearing Hansen's words, Itogi finally reacted. He quickly extended his 7 arms, and plunged them into the throat of the Triceratops. After continuously stabbing the commoners, I finally finished the kill. After doing all this, Itogi walked in front of Hansen and said, "You're strong." Hansen casually replied, "So. My physical fitness has just broken 100. After some thought, Idomu said, "I also know the locations of some solitary god-blood creatures. How about we continue to cooperate?" Hansen nodded and said, "Okay. But for long-term cooperation, we can't split it like this. Let's divide this divine blood creature's flesh first. Let's split it." Itoki replied, "It's all yours. Your ice blade is poisoned. The flesh is contaminated. I wouldn't dare eat it even if I took it." Hansen laughed. "Thank you then." Without further ado, he summoned the Holy War Angel. Because this Triceratops was so enormous, he wouldn't know when he'd finish eating it himself. So he simply gave it to the little angel. The moment he saw the little angel, Itoki's eyes widened instantly. A human-shaped pet. What level is this? Han Jia smiled. 2 hours after returning to the divine blood, watching the little angel swallow the Triceratops whole, swallowing the Triceratops whole, Itamuki thought in shock. What kind of pet is this? Such a small girl. How did she eat such a large alien creature? Who is this person anyway? This is also the flesh and blood of a divine blood creature. He actually fed it to his pet without batting an eye. I have to go back to the Alliance. Let's meet again next time. After Hansen saw little angel finish eating the Triceratops, he immediately took his leave. At this time, Itogi also spoke. I should also return to the Alliance. Let's go together. Hansen didn't say anything after hearing this. Looking at Hansen's back, Itogi thought to himself, what is Hansen's background? I must find out when I return to the League. On the Eternal Sai, Hansen was blocked by Ani from Ji Yenran's door. She said to Ani, displeased, "We're both guards. Why can't you let me in?" Ani replied coldly, "I said no, it's no." Just as Hansen was about to force his way in, the door suddenly opened. Ji Yenran leaned out and said to Ani. Ani laughed, "He's my bodyguard too. He has the right to see me anytime." After hearing Ji Yenran's words, Ani could only coldly snort. Ji Yenran pulled Hansen inside. She said, "Don't be angry with her. Don't ever clash with her. She really will kill." Hansen, hearing this, said angrily, a security guard is so arrogant. Doesn't she even listen to you? Ji Yanran replied, nominally, she's my security guard. But with my current position, how dare she act as my bodyguard? It was someone at home who arranged for her to come. Actually, she only listens to that person at home. My words are useless. But she's also here for my safety. Don't provoke her in the future. Han Sen nodded and said, if she doesn't provoke me, I won't go looking for trouble with her. Several hours later, when Han Sen was leaving Ji Manran's room, Ani coldly uttered a sentence. You, a man who sponges off women, are a disgrace to our military. After hearing Ani's words, Han Sen turned his head, saying coldly, are you talking about me? At this point, Han Sen suddenly smiled faintly. As a professional gold digger, I can professionally tell you, you don't even qualify to let a man be a kept man. You'll probably remain a spinster your whole life. Ani was instantly furious after hearing Han Sen's words. She pointed at Han Sen and angrily said, you bastard. Han Sen slapped Ani's hand away. He continued, if I were a transcendent too, I could slap you to death with one hand. Believe it or not, after hearing Han Sen's words, Ani burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. I'll wait for the day you become a transcendent. Let's see how you'll slap me to death. Han Sen sneered, no need to wait. If you dare to play around in the future, I can prove right now that if we were of the same rank, how utterly weak you are. How about the training room? Ani said indifferently, not now. Hearing this, Han Sen laughed heartily. What's wrong? Are you scared? Ani replied, I have to work now. See you at the training room in 3 hours. Han Sen admired this aspect of Ani. She really was a good soldier, loyal to her duty. Han Sen simply said, I'll wait for you, then turned and returned to his room. 3 hours later, Ani appeared in a white martial arts uniform. Han Sen was about to enter the training ground, facing the doorway. He said, come in. Han Sen stood at the doorway without entering. He smiled at Ani and said, what's the hurry? After hearing Han Sen's words, Ani chuckled lightly. What's wrong? Weren't you asking me to suppress my strength and fight you? Are you scared now? Han Sen shook his head after hearing this and said, big sister, when did I ever say such a thing? I'm not a fool. Even if you suppressed your power, your eyesight and reflexes aren't something even evolvers can match. I'm not stupid, why would I suffer such a loss? Let's have a battle of wits. Dare you? You've learned military thief fist, right? I'll name a move, then you name one. Let's just use the moves from the Jun Dao Quan. Fair enough, right? Han Sen said this as he walked in front of Ani. Ani frowned and said, let's see what tricks you can pull off. This clearly meant he agreed to Han Sen's proposal. Han Sen gestured with an inviting hand and smiled, come on. Ladies first, you go first. After thinking for a moment, Ani described a complete offensive move, a charging uppercut. Upon hearing this, Han Sen quickly responded with a diagonal 3-punch combination. A left diagonal attack targeting your left ribs. After thinking for a moment, Ani responded with a counter elbow. I'll turn and attack your neck. It's like drawing a picture, she's purely relying on imagination to make her moves. Ani has never played before, so she has to think for a while each time. The two of them take turns making moves. Finally, in less than 4 moves, Ani couldn't think of her next move. A move that wouldn't be countered by Hansen. Hansen said triumphantly to Ani, you lose. Hearing Hansen's words, Ani retorted unconvincedly, that's just talk. It's different in a real fight. You can't push me that far. Hansen said indifferently, this belief is fine. We can demonstrate it again as we just discussed. But none of us can use force. Just purely follow the moves as we discussed earlier. Let me demonstrate, so you won't complain. After hearing Han Sen's suggestion, Ani immediately nodded in agreement. The two of them practiced the moves according to the previously discussed plan. When it came time to practice the moves, Ani truly found herself in a situation where she couldn't avoid it. Her mind went blank. Unless he used speed and strength beyond Hansen's, he would have definitely lost. Hansen said to Ani, how about it? Do you admit defeat? Ani replied, this is my first time speaking without any preparation. Unlike you, whose specialty is trash talk. Hansen curled his lip and said, it's fine if you don't admit defeat. We can continue. I'll keep fighting until you admit defeat. Half an hour later, Hansen watched Ani, who was sitting on the ground, her face full of disbelief. He said, big sis, this is already the 3rd time. You haven't even managed to last 4 rounds once. Is there any point in continuing? Ani thought tearfully in her heart. I originally thought my previous failures were due to unfamiliarity. It turns out I'm doomed to lose whether I'm familiar with it or not. Although he knew in his heart that he had lost, he was unwilling to admit it. He turned his head and angrily shouted at Han Jia. You spend all day studying this useless junk. It's no wonder you win. If it were a real fight, you couldn't win against me. Just as Ani finished speaking, Han Sen suddenly spoke. Then let's have a real fight. After hearing Han Sen's words, Ani spoke with some surprise. Do you really dare to fight me? Do you really dare to fight me? After hearing Ani's words, Hansen said meaningfully, fighting is certain, but it's the only option. Annie immediately agreed. She excitedly thought to herself, just let me get my hands on him. I'll beat you to a pulp, you bastard. A few minutes later, Hansa's hand rested beneath Annie's. He smiled, you were the one who struck first. This time, I guess it's my turn to hit. Annie gritted her teeth and retorted, even if it's a slap on the back of the hand. With my strength and speed, it's absolutely impossible for me to lose to you. Hearing this, Hansen smiled and asked, do you know why you lost when we were breaking each other's moves just now? Do you know why you lost? After hearing Hansen's words, Annie was just about to ask why, but Hansen slapped her hand. Seeing this, Annie was furious. You're despicable, she exclaimed. As she spoke, her hand was slapped several more times. Looking at Annie's darkened face, Hansen said with a smile, you're supposed to bluff when you play this game. You should have said so earlier if you didn't want me to. Can I bluff or not? Annie was so angry she almost spat blood. She kept telling herself to calm down. She had to calm down and not let herself be provoked. I can't take it anymore. That bastard. I want to slap him to death right now. Hansen watched Annie, whose whole body trembled with anger, and whose body sparked with electricity. He couldn't help but take 2 steps back and said, stop, stop, stop. You wouldn't be resorting to violence because you can't win, would you? Annie glared at Hansen without speaking. After a long while, she finally suppressed her anger. She turned and ran towards the training room exit. As she ran, she cursed, damn you. You're despicable. You're shameless. You're depraved. You're filthy. Watching Annie's departing back, Hansen thought to himself, what kind of perverted female demon is this? Her aura is too terrifying. She's practically not human anymore. Is this the power of a transcendent? Truly enviable. Several hours later, under the frozen lake in the shelter, Hansen, sitting on his silver scale mount, arrived at the waters where the Crystal Palace was located. The golden crab, hearing the commotion, quietly glanced over. Upon seeing Hansen, it retreated back into the ship's cabin. Feeling a gaze upon him, Hansen looked around, but he couldn't see the golden crab. He thought to himself, has it hidden itself? This shouldn't be an illusion. Hansen didn't directly attack the golden crab. Instead, he stood on the Crystal Palace, and hunted the aquatic creatures outside using his ghost claw blade. It was then that Hansen discovered, hunting aquatic creatures from atop the Crystal Palace. It's such a steal. He thought excitedly to himself, I absolutely must get my hands on the Crystal Palace. It's practically a game-breaking bug. With this Crystal Palace, the entire ocean will be mine. Hansen casually tossed the hunted alien creatures onto the deck of the Crystal Palace. Seeing this, the golden crab shamelessly tried to pinch some away. Just as the golden crab's claws were about to touch those fish-like alien creatures, Hansen directly used the ghost claw blade soul beast. He slashed at its crab claw. Damn crab, we're settling the score today. The man and the crab immediately engaged in battle. The ghost claw blade collided with the golden crab claw. A clang of metal on metal resounded. Both the man and the crab retreated a few steps. Hansen secretly rejoiced inwardly at the sight. This blow could be considered evenly matched. With all these added genes, my strength is already not inferior to this crab. Thinking to this point, Hansen swung his ghost claw blade again. He charged towards the golden crab. Hansen's figure constantly darted and weaved around the golden crab. The golden crab simply couldn't do anything to Hansen. But even if the golden crab kept passively taking hits, Hansen's attacks still couldn't break through the golden crab's defense. His god blood level ghost claw blade could only leave shallow marks on its shell. Hansen simply put away the ghost claw blade. He thought to himself that the ghost claw blade couldn't hurt him anyway. It was better to just use his fists. He would use his Yin energy to penetrate the hard shell. Thinking this, Hansen used the power of his Yin energy. A fist slammed toward the golden crab. Seeing this, the golden crab instinctively raised its claw and swung it. Seeing this, a smile curved Hansen's lips. His body suddenly crouched low, dodging the claw's attack. Then, a powerful punch slammed into the golden crab's head. The Yin energy penetrated the golden crab's body. The next moment, the golden crab swayed as if drunk. Its body uncontrollably wobbled, as if about to collapse at any moment. Hansen was overjoyed at the sight. He immediately unleashed another punch. Seeing that the golden crab hadn't fallen, Hansen felt a little strange. Could it still move? Die. Another wave of Yin energy blasted into its body. The golden crab could no longer support its massive body. He collapsed to the ground. At this time, a voice rang out in Hansen's mind. Successful hunt. Success. Hunt successful. Golden AO King's Godblood obtained. Godblood AO King. Beast Soul. Consuming its beast soul can grant you -10 points of divine genes. Upon hearing this, Hansen was overjoyed. He quickly looked at the golden AO1. What type of beast soul was it? As Hansen thought, golden armor instantly appeared on him. Hansen excitedly thought to himself, finally, I have a godblood armor to wear again. Later, I'll use the black crystal to transform the beast soul into a berserk Godblood beast soul. I'm afraid even Godblood weapons would have difficulty harming it. This golden armor. I've arrived at the Crystal Palace. He was busy dealing with the Golden Tortoise King's body. Han Sen went straight to the Crystal Palace's control room. The Crystal Palace's control room. The Sea God Princess at this time had completely taken control of the entire Crystal Palace. The Sea God Princess looked at Han Sen with excitement. She said, "My dear master, where would you like to go?" A mysterious and magnificent crystal boat slowly rose from the lake bottom, strangely suspended in the water. It looked incredibly unbelievable. Han sat in his seat, full of spirit, and said, "Girl, head towards the ocean." The Sea God Princess asked, "Master, do you wish to surface?" Han shook his head and said, "No need, just proceed underwater. Observe the sights of the sea." Han San excitedly thought to himself, "Such beautiful coral. So the underwater world is so beautiful." The number of strange creatures in the sea exceeded Hansen's imagination. Various marine creatures he had never seen before swam in the sea. Han San was overjoyed. With such a vast treasure trove, would I still fear a lack of resources? I, Han Sen, am probably the first human to hunt alien creatures in the deep sea. After several more days of traveling underwater, Han Sen suddenly raised his hand. It was placed on the Sea God Princess's shoulder. "Wait! What is that thing?" The Sea God Princess replied to her master upon hearing this. "That is the underwater sanctuary." Looking at that massive city, standing tall in the depths of the ocean, Han Sen thought to himself, such a large city. This must be a royal family's shelter. At this time, the Sea God Princess asked Han Sen, "Master, shall we go there?" Han Sen pondered and replied, "The seabed is not my main battlefield. Attacking an underwater royal shelter, it's too dangerous. Let's go around it." Suddenly, the Crystal Palace seemed to hit something. The entire Crystal Palace swayed slightly twice. Han Sen quickly asked what happened. The Sea God Princess replied, "The water's too shallow ahead. To continue bypassing this royal sanctuary, we'll have to surface." Before long, we could see the Crystal Palace getting closer to the shore. Han Sen said to the Sea God Princess, "You stay in the Crystal Palace. Go and take a look." After saying that, Han Sen immediately left the Crystal Palace. Han Sen took a distant look at the situation by the sea. He actually saw many humans attacking a spirit sanctuary. That spirit sanctuary, and in front of that sanctuary, there were many alien creatures resembling porcupines. Their bodies were covered in sharp spikes. These spikes could be launched like arrows. The human army charged several times, but they couldn't break through the porcupine defenses. In front of the porcupine horde, a giant warrior in full black iron armor. He rode a giant boar, charging through the human army. No one among the humans could stop him. Seeing this, Han Sen excitedly muttered, "What a magnificent meat shield, this spirit creature. Heh heh, since I've seen you, you're mine now." In a few breaths, Han Sen charged from the beach to the entrance of the alien shelter. Under everyone's dumbfounded gaze, Han Sen, he faced the countless spikes shot by the hedgehog without flinching or avoiding them. He walked towards the meat shield-like alien creature. The spikes rained down on his body. All that could be heard was a series of clinking sounds, but they caused no harm to Han Sen. Soon, Han Sen arrived in front of the meat shield-like alien creature. Seeing this, the tank-like mutant didn't hold back and swung its axe. But Han Sen's speed was simply no match for this strength-type mutant. His figure instantly transformed into a streak of golden light. He dashed towards the shelter. Han Sen excitedly shouted in his heart, "Soul Stone, I'm here." The tanky alien spirit was shocked and it saw Han Sen charging into the shelter. It was immediately startled. Just as it was about to ride the giant wild boar back, Han Sen had already come out holding the Soul Stone. He spoke to the tanky alien spirit. "The Soul Stone is in my hands. Now, submit to me." The meat shield, the heteromorph, rushed before Hansen. To everyone's shock, he suddenly knelt down on one knee with a thud. "Mad Shield is willing to offer my most loyal soul to my master. Forever and ever, I will follow my master, never betraying them." Everyone's mouths dropped open. They watched the scene in disbelief. It's incredibly rare for a spirit beast to choose a master. Usually, you have to subdue a spirit beast first, before there's even a slight chance of it choosing a master. The golden figure completely shattered their understanding. They saw Han Sen press the Soul Stone against the forehead of the alien spirit to stop. The Soul Stone immediately expanded and glowed brightly. It was so intense that everyone couldn't open their eyes. Then, the alien spirit and the Soul Stone disappeared together. It's clearly been taken into Han Sen's Soul Sea. After the meat shield alien was subdued, the alien creatures he controlled immediately rioted. The giant boar that had been used as a mount by that alien immediately charged towards Han Sen. He watched the giant boar charge. Han Sen showed no intention of dodging. The moment the giant boar charged before him, a fist encased in golden armor casually struck out at the giant boar. The next moment, that giant body charging at high speed, it just stopped abruptly. He suddenly fell to the ground, dead as a doornail. Then, from the crowd of fire, someone suddenly shouted, "Be God. It must be God. I didn't expect God to be on our side." After that voice rang out, the crowd erupted in a burst of excited cheers. So God was here. With God here, we won't be afraid of those alien creatures anymore. Be God, I love you. Ignoring the crowd's cheers, Han Sen, without pausing, leaped several times, and dashed toward the beach. Inside the Crystal Palace, Han Sen looked at the mad shield before him and sighed softly. It's alright. My Crystal Palace is currently lacking manpower. Disorderly people aren't suitable for the Crystal Palace. It still needs to rely on my otherworldly beings as the main fighting force. With that in mind, Hansen said to the Wild Shield, your mission is to hunt the sea's alien creatures. The more, the better. Upon hearing this, Kwang Dun nodded without hesitation. Just then, Hansen suddenly noticed something unusual in his soul sea. He immediately focused his attention on his soul sea. Soon he saw the dazzling golden roar emerging from its cocoon. At this time, the introduction of the golden roar had changed to the rampaging super divine beast soul, the golden roar. Mount type, rampaging golden roar. Its speed and power have been significantly increased. It's already comparable to the divine blood mounts of the second sanctuary, class mounts, and the ability to freely change size is also something ordinary divine blood mounts don't possess. Hansen ordered the sea god princess to pilot the Crystal Palace, and return to the ice field. A few days later, Hansen had Golden Retriever Yi carry the monstrous sea creature's flesh, which was as high as a small mountain, back to the goddess sanctuary. Upon hearing the news, everyone immediately came out to greet them. Yang Monli and the others were stunned when they saw the flesh. An expression of disbelief instantly appeared on her face. Now, there are fewer and fewer exotic creatures to hunt near the ice field. They had never seen such a scene before. Under Yang Monli's surprised gaze, Hansen smiled and said, Monli, count all this flesh and blood, then you can decide how to sell it. Yang Monli said blankly, so much flesh and blood, and so many beast souls. Where did you get all this? Hansen smiled slightly. I got it from the sea. Looking at Yang Monli's shocked eyes, Hansen continued to smile. Someone like me, who can hunt tigers in the mountains, capture dragons when I descend, a powerful man like me, hunting alien creatures in the sea. Isn't that quite normal? Why are you looking at me with that kind of expression? Yang Monli looked at Hansen without saying a word. She thought to herself, since we met at the second shelter, everything Hansen has done has shocked me. How does he do it? This man is becoming increasingly enigmatic. Days later, Hansen returned to the Sighing Goddess through the teleportation device within the Goddess Sanctuary. He was back on the Sighing Goddess. Ji Yanran suddenly sent Hansen a video call. Han, aren't you very interested in classical Chinese literature? A classical literature expert has recently arrived. Would you like to meet him, her? After hearing Ji Yanran's words, Han immediately became interested. He quickly asked which classical literature expert it was. How could we have a classical Chinese expert here? Ji Yanran explained with a smile. This Professor Su has a profound mastery of the written word. He is also very well known in the league, not just in classical Chinese. He has studied the writing systems of many races. Ancient scripts are just one of them. He found out when Professor Su's lecture would be. Hansen immediately went to the training room and attended the class. A few hours later, Professor Su spoke to everyone in the training room. That's all for today's class. If you have any questions, feel free to come find me. Just as Professor Su finished speaking, Hansen quickly walked up to him. He gave Professor Su a military salute. Professor Su, I have some questions about the alliances. I have some questions about ancient writing. I would like to ask you. I wonder if you have time. Professor Su smiled slightly upon hearing this. Are you interested in the writing of ancient times? Hansen nodded and said, I'm studying this aspect, but there's really too little reference material. Many questions are difficult to answer. Professor Su smiled. Today's young people prefer to spend their time cultivating supercore gene arts. People like you, who are willing to spend time reading and studying literature, are rare nowadays. Let's go to the cafeteria. We can chat while we eat. I learned a lot about classical literature from Professor Su. Now, Hansen had a deeper understanding of the Dongxian Sutra. Although there were still many things he couldn't understand, but it was much better than before. The cultivation terms in the Dongxian Sutra were all recorded in ancient texts. To completely decipher them was still too difficult for Hansen now. Following Professor Su's translation, Hansen had a general understanding of the Dongxian classic, a passage about the use of yin jin. He now had a deeper understanding. Hansen thought to himself, the Dongxian classic is truly profound. It's worthy of being a peerless classic that allows for physical body ascension to the void, the secret manual left by the strong. If one can master the true energy cultivation techniques within it, it might be far more powerful than the ice skin jade bone technique. With a few more days of practice, what originally could only penetrate 3 or 4 inches with hidden force, should easily extend to about a foot. My body isn't strong enough yet. If it were stronger, the effect would definitely multiply several times. Only by constantly growing stronger can I remain undefeated. As Hansen thought, he began checking his attribute panel. Hansen, Super God Body, Emperor Spirit Rank Evolutionary, Lifespan, 300. Base Gene, 100, Original Gene, 100, Mutation Gene, 43, Divine Gene, 28. Hansen estimated that his physical condition had definitely surpassed 120. He had made up his mind. I've decided to try my luck in the sanctuary world first. That alien nest. On an ice field in the sanctuary world, Hansen arrived at the place where Zhu Ting had previously taken him, the alien nest. Hansen immediately summoned all his beast souls. The golden armor is worn. The stone armor demon pattern is also summoned. It grants the armored beast the inferno domain, with the black beast soul hovering above its head. This further amplifies its power. The ghost claw blade beast soul is summoned. Having completed all of this, Hansen didn't say a word, but charged straight in to battle the gargoyle. The fight began. After a few moves, Hansen excitedly thought to himself, heh, it seems my strength is no less than this gargoyle's. Now we can already break through his defenses. After being cut by Hansen, the gargoyle let out a ferocious roar. Its claws desperately tried to grab Hansen, but Hansen's strength and speed were no less than its own. In addition to Hansen's agility, he was far stronger than the gargoyle. With a sway of his body, the gargoyle couldn't even scratch Hansen. The gargoyle roared in fury, but it couldn't do anything to Hansen. It could only let Hansen do as he pleased on its body, leaving behind countless scars. Just as Hansen was feeling self-satisfied, the gargoyle swiped at him fiercely with its claw. Hansen originally thought he was at a safe enough distance, but unexpectedly, the gargoyle's arm suddenly extended by 2. A claw suddenly grabbed Hansen's shoulder. Hansen was startled, but when he saw the gargoyle's claws, only able to leave a few shallow scratches on his armor, he let out an excited cry of, ha ha ha, I'm perfectly fine, with my golden armor of fury, and the added defense of the rampaging stone demon armor. My strength is unbelievably powerful. You can't even scratch me now. I don't even need a weapon to deal with you. After contemplating the Dong Xian Jing for so long, it's the perfect time to test it on you. Die, Hansen, he said as he slammed his furious fists into the gargoyle's body. In the end, Hansen directly shattered the gargoyle's heart with his dark energy. Xiao Dingshan's furious punch killed the gargoyle instantly. A beautiful sound. Hunt successful. Killed the berserk bloodline creature, Hell Gargoyle. No beast soul obtained. Flesh inedible. After hearing that sound, Hansen immediately cursed, what the F? What rotten luck is this? I've wasted so much time. Not only did I not get the beast soul, I can't even eat the flesh. This luck is really unbelievably bad. He kicked the corpse on the ground hard. Hansen directly moved deeper inside, to search for the alien egg. He wondered what kind of god blood would be good. It would be best if it had wings, or something like a demonic sword possessing him. A beast soul would also work. Hansen searched as he walked, but all the way, he saw nothing except the stone statue, and the ghost, no other strange creatures. It seemed like the only thing in the nest was that gargoyle. At this moment, Hansen's heart began to race with anxiety. This is bad. Soon, he saw the enormous alien creature's egg. He immediately let out a long sigh of relief. The ghost claw beast soul was summoned. Hansen silently prayed to the Jade Emperor and the Lousy. All the gods, please bless me, grant me a good beast soul. The ghost claw blade fell. A large mass of mist flowed out of the alien egg. Then, a beast soul appeared directly before him. This beast soul looks like a tiger and a leopard. It also has a pair of huge wings on its back. After that beast soul appeared, it immediately turned into a stream of light, and shot into Hansen's soul sea. Hansen moved his mind. He saw the information about this beast soul. Beast soul, death demon level, divine blood level, flying beast soul. Hansen was so excited that he immediately summoned the death demon. A pair of enormous wings suddenly appeared on its back. Without hesitation, he immediately fed the black crystal to the death demon. He thought to himself, waiting for the berserk blood wings to appear. This is currently the fastest flying soul beast in the second sanctuary, for humans. From now on, in the land, sea, and sky of the second sanctuary, except for encountering super divine creatures, now even I, Hansen, can walk sideways. Here I am at Xingluan Sanctuary. As soon as Li Xinluan saw Hansen, he exclaimed excitedly, Hansen, you've been gone for so long, and you're finally here. I've already reached an agreement with Black God and Felipe. In 2 days, we're attacking the royal sanctuary. Will you come along? After hearing Li Xingluan's words, Han Sen smiled and shook his head, saying, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I have a feud with He Shen. It wouldn't be convenient if we went together. Li Xingluan was slightly stunned upon hearing this. His face full of surprise, he said, so it was you who injured the Black God? It was you who took the Serpent Bone Fish King? Han Sen nodded without concealing it. It was me. When you guys fight later, I'll go myself. Li Xing, reincarnation path, be careful. Almost all the experts around He Shen have been deployed. What if He Shen has some thoughts about you then? It'll be difficult to leave. Han Sen smiled and nodded. He thought to himself, difficult. Before I take down the shelter, I'll give him some face. But after taking down the sanctuary, it's unclear who will be bothering whom. Xiaodong's Nonsense Anime. 2 days later, Xiaodong's Nonsense Anime, the three factions mobilized all their forces, and launched a surprise attack on the royal sanctuary. Han Sen hid in the shadows, unable to help but click his tongue in amazement. He roughly counted. Just from the direction He Shen attacked, more than 20 god blood creatures had charged out. This doesn't even include Li Xingluan's western flank, or Felish's eastern flank. The entire battlefield was in chaos. Han Sen thought to himself, this imperial shelter, just how many god blood creatures are there? A large imperial shelter like this is simply not something one person can conquer. It's a good thing I didn't act rashly last time. He Shen's command ability is far better than Han Sen had imagined. Even with his own men injured, he was able to command and handle the situation immediately. Han Sen couldn't help but secretly admire him. Such a large-scale battle, he commanded it with such composure and calmness. This guy is indeed formidable. But an enemy is still an enemy. Don't blame me for being merciless. Although the strength of the Royal Protectorate is very powerful, under the combined assault of the three human factions, the alien army is slowly falling behind. Han Sen thought to himself, if that royal alien spirit doesn't have other divine blood creatures to help, then the shelter would have been breached long ago. As Han Sen was thinking, he saw that the royal alien spirit actually. He walked back into the shelter without looking back. Just as Han Sen was puzzled, the ground suddenly trembled slightly. Rocks in many places cracked open. The next moment, silver beetles, like a flood, poured out from within. Wherever those silver beetles passed, both humans and alien bodies were instantly devoured. Hansen felt a chill run down his spine. More and more fissures opened up on the ground, and countless silver beetles swarmed out. For a moment, the entire battlefield was thrown into chaos. Both humans and extraterrestrial beings scrambled to escape. No one had the mind to continue fighting. Even those with divine blood were completely focused on dealing with the silver beetles. The team was being scattered. He Shen immediately shouted, retreat. Don't lose your composure. Han Sen observed for a moment. Then he couldn't help but mutter. These bugs are so disgusting. They give me the creeps. But, these bugs don't seem very strong individually. They're only slightly stronger than average primitive creatures. These silver beetles rely on sheer numbers. Heh, my chance has come. With my golden armor and the Stonehide magic rune, it can completely withstand the attacks of the silver beetles. And the full body armor makes it impossible for the silver beetles to get through. Now, all humans and alien creatures are running everywhere, being chased by those silver beetles. Perhaps this is the perfect time for me to steal the soul stone. Thinking of this, Han Sen immediately rushed towards the royal family's shelter. Charging forward, he had only just approached the battlefield when a tidal wave of silver beetles pounced on him. A series of clicking sounds echoed. Han Sen didn't feel anything unusual. He instantly felt at ease. Damn! Seeing these bugs up close is even more disgusting. Han Sen muttered to himself. He rushed toward the royal shelter. Taking advantage of the cover of these silver beetles, no one noticed that Dao had quietly sneaked toward the royal sanctuary. In no time, Han Sen had climbed over the wall and entered the royal sanctuary. What Han Sen didn't expect was that there were a surprisingly large number of alien creatures inside the shelter. Upon seeing Han Sen, the creatures immediately charged towards him. Han Sen saw from afar that the royal alien spirit was walking towards the center of the shelter. He gritted his teeth and directly summoned the wings of the death demon to chase after him. All sorts of alien creatures lunged at Han Sen. However, relying on the speed of the berserk divine blood wings, the alien creatures couldn't even touch him. He darted through the air like a dragonfly. In the blink of an eye, she had broken through wave after wave of interceptors. That royal alien spirit had now arrived in front of a massive ancient building. She suddenly seemed to sense something. When she turned around, she just happened to see Han Sen rushing toward her from afar. Her pupils constricted violently. Even though Han Sen was encased in golden armor at this moment, she still recognized him at a glance. Han Sen smiled at the royal alien spirit, seeing an old acquaintance. Aren't you even going to say hello before you leave? After hearing Han Sen's words, the royal alien spirit's face turned cold. He gently waved the scepter in his hand. Two divine blood creatures immediately charged towards Han Sen. Seeing this, Han Sen immediately cursed, fuck. Sent out so many divine blood creatures, and there are still some here. Only an opponent like this is worth fighting. Watching Han Sen get entangled by two god blood creatures, the Imperial Spirit let out a cold laugh. Then, she actually walked directly into that mysterious building. Meanwhile, two identical black spirit serpents. One was wrapped around the doorpost. Han Sen had seen one of those black spirit snakes before. During the last spirit attack on the Star Will shelter, it had brought one of these black spirit snakes with it. That one was also a god blood creature. Han Sen frowned. I muttered to myself, there are too many divine blood creatures in this royal family's sanctuary. I can't afford to waste any more time. A chill filled my eyes. Han Sen's gaze tracked the movement of every alien creature before him. Everything is in sight. A three-dimensional image formed in his mind. He calculated the most likely route to burst into that ancient building. The next moment, the wings behind Han Sen suddenly flapped. In a blink, having overcome those two divine blood creatures, Han Sen thought to himself, to catch the thief, catch the king first. You divine blood creatures are fierce enough, but you're just too stupid. I'll ram you idiots to death. Ha 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 ha. You can't catch me. Han Sen looked back at the group of creatures. He let out a wild laugh. Soon, he arrived before the ancient building. He looked at the two black forest pythons coiled around the pillars. Han Sen wondered in his heart what he should do with these two snakes. One snake is already difficult enough to deal with. Now with two of them together, this is really testing me. When the two black forest snakes saw Han Sen approaching, they immediately opened their mouths. They let out a series of sharp, eerie cries at Han Sen. In front of him, the black forest snakes. Behind them, there were thousands of alien creatures in an army. Both the roads in front and behind Han Sen were blocked. Seeing this, Han Sen gritted his teeth and shouted, I didn't plan to play along with you guys. Since we're old pals, I'll send you a big gift. A loud bang echoed. Han Sen transformed into an afterimage and stepped forward. It was as if he had teleported. He charged to the side of one of the black forest giant snakes. A flash of purple light flickered. Ghost Claw Blade Beast Soul. A deep wound was left on the black forest serpent's neck. After leaving a deep wound, after delivering that palm strike, Han Sen didn't hesitate to charge into that ancient building. The interior of the ancient building was like a temple. Everywhere are mysterious symbols and statues. Deep inside the temple, there's a giant evil ghost statue over 3 meters tall. It looks extremely terrifying and hateful. Han Sen walked towards the evil ghost statue, muttering to himself, I didn't expect we'd meet so soon, did you? Saying this, he looked towards the soul on the demon statue's forehead. Just then, the figure of the Imperial Spirit suddenly appeared beneath the demon statue. Han Sen looked at the royal alien spirit in front of him. He secretly thought to himself, this is great. The alien organisms outside dare not come in. Having one enemy to deal with makes things much easier. If I want to obtain its soul, now is the best opportunity. Han Sen was about to reach the statue. The royal alien, Leng He, let out a cold snort. His silver sword flashed out like lightning. It slashed horizontally towards Han Sen's throat. It reached Han Sen's neck almost instantly. Han Sen was startled. What a fast sword. This woman is really ruthless. She came straight at me, aiming to chop off my neck. Only 2 moves in, Han Sen was kicked away by the royal alien with a single sword strike. Han Sen thought to himself in shock.